Hello and welcome to the RWBY podcast. We're talking about Volume 7, Episode 7. I have Soda Reese's Puffs for the first time in like 3 weeks, and I am just a very tiny man piloting a vaguely human-sized robot. I am Mediocrity.
I am high-powered, the man who's currently late to the podcast because I had to drop my truck off to get work, and unfortunately this podcast isn't sponsored by Lone Star Beer, even though I wish it was.
Hey, you got your name in at the beginning there. Good job, dude. I have to remind you.
Yep. Excellent.
I am confused. I hated Ren and Nora in this episode. They were the worst part of this episode. And my favorite part of this episode was Blake. I think I need to go lie down for a second. I am dude, I think. Yep. What is this bizarre world?
And what timeline have we slipped into?
Yep. And I am the most accidentally accurate allegory for the 2016 elections of all time. I am Robert.
And I guess it's Coop's turn.
Coop. Oh, is he frozen?
Well, we're having technical difficulties with Coop, so we will ignore his existence until he comes back into the call.
Ouch.
Yeah. He's staring into my soul right now.
Yeah, he's staring into all of our souls right now.
He's just gonna stare at us all for the remainder of this entire podcast.
Yep, he's typing.
And I'm also going to try and interrupt Les here. That was a problem last week. I apologize for that.
It happens.
So we have two minor points of housekeeping before we get into the episode itself. One, I just want to get this out of the way. There's been a recent controversy over the character May Marigold because the voice actor came out and basically revealed that the character is trans on Twitter, which is, frankly fucking weak. As far as representation goes, but you got a lot of people losing their minds because, oh my god, they reveal this character as trans, and there's other people like, oh my god, they reveal this character as trans over a tweet instead of in the show itself. And then there's other people that are like, yeah, all representation is good. Who cares about like actual characterization and plot beats and relevance? And I just really don't care.
Yeah, nobody important gives a fuck. I'm assuming this isn't what we were talking about last week with it turning out that she's actually Henry having gotten a sex change or anything like that.
No, she also revealed that it is Henry's cousin.
Oh,
which, in my opinion, makes it even weaker because, like, oh my god, can't even be his sister. Can't even be like someone.
We're not even on the same side of the tree.
It has to be someone. Yeah. I mean, I love my cousins and all, but like, I'm, they're not exactly the family members I'm closest with.
Yeah.
Oh, but and then the other contrivancy is what? I guess we had another round of layoffs.
Another round of layoffs at Rooster Teeth.
How many people? Anyone important?
Yes to that second question. I saw 3 people come out about it. And then Rooster Teeth tried to gaslight it. They're like, "Oh, this isn't layoffs. This is just a couple people losing their jobs all at the same time."
Okay.
Because they just can't have another PR disaster like that again. So close to the recent layoffs and stuff that they were dealing with. But once again, you had a lot of the former Rooster Teeth employees like speak out against it. Once again, a lot of the same people. But this one, it kind of hit close to home for a lot of people because one of the people who lost their jobs was Patrick Rodriguez, which means none of the people working on RWBY now, animation-wise, of course, none of the animators working on RWBY now worked on it at the beginning. Patrick Rodriguez was the last one left. And so that's hitting a lot of people, like, a lot of the people who, still hold those first 2 volumes really near and dear to their heart. I'm not one of them, obviously, But those people are kind of taking this hard because it's getting harder and harder to defend this as still being Monty's show when the only people that have been involved with it since the beginning are
Miles
Miles,
and
Ca-
Carey.
are Miles, Carey, and Jeff Williams.
And I mean, to
Like
that
those are the only
point,
ones left.
like this is gonna be me
Right.
being like super cynical. Like I feel like the show stopped being Monty's show, like during Volume 4.
I don't think it was ever necessarily 100% Monty show. That's
Yeah, it
always
was
been my
never. He came up with the
Yeah.
original concept, but Miles and Carey are the ones who, he turned to and said, "I've never actually had to write an actual story before. Give me a hand here." So
I mean,
Yeah,
if
Monty
I
was
if
the
I
pitch
remember
man.
yeah, if I remember correctly, there's some controversy around like who created Team Juniper. A lot of people attribute it to Miles, though
Pretty
Miles
sure
has said
Monty
that like
did.
it was Monty's idea and that Miles just kind of ended up with it because he was the voice actor. We don't really know. I know Miles said a lot of that stuff in order to, hand wave the criticism that it was self insert, but
Yeah.
I was gonna say something about that. Oh, Miles created Ironwood. He took credit for that in Volume 2. Like
And I thank him for
he's the
that.
one who came up with the entire idea of like Atlas and stuff, and that's kind of where we're at now. So this is actually kind of a showcase of what Miles is like when he isn't, being an awful writer.
When his head isn't shoved completely up his own ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when he has competent writers helping him out, but yeah. Well,
So now
mostly
we can
competent writers will talk, but so I don't know. Do you think these layoffs spell doom for the company, or
no more than it did the last time this happened. No, I think Rooster Teeth's still going to be around. I do think eventually it will just get mothballed into HBO and everything.
Just imagine
Yeah.
that RWBY will be listed next to Game of Thrones on HBO's streaming service. Just think about that real quick. Just
Yeah.
think about
I mean,
Genlock
still
already
like
is.
Game of Thrones,
Yeah, I mean,
so
I
doesn't bother
don't-
me none. But
Just don't watch the last season. That's all you got to do. It ends at
I don't
at
even
end
think
of
the last
7.
season is really all that bad. That's a whole
That's a
nother
spicy
conversation.
opinion right there.
Yes, that is a whole nother
towards the end of the podcast
Okay.
when people stop watching.
Sorry, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. That's a whole nother rant, which I have gone on many of those rants before.
Yeah, I got no opinion.
I'll probably, and like when I actually get when I actually start blogging, I'll probably, one of the first things I will probably do is put out a, that whole thing. I'll be like the reverse red letter media or something like that. But
yeah,
that's a discussion for another
It
day,
should
another
be
context,
called
another
half in the root
another
beer
group
because
of
you're
people.
Mormon, and Mormons invented root beer.
something like that.
But
Anyway,
but
this
so
is the kind of highbrow humor you can expect on the RWBY podcast.
also
Uploading
get dabbed
weekly,
on
except
any
not
other.
next week because off week. But
Oh yeah,
comment, and subscribe.
We will be streaming something next week, right, Media?
We're gonna try to have something set up for next weekend.
for Star Wars.
If we all get a chance to see it by then, sure. I
Yeah,
might not be able to see it until that weekend though, because
okay.
it's an off week. Next week is payday.
I can probably see it by then.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm back.
Hi, Coop. Good to have
Good
you.
to have you back.
Alrighty.
I'm going to attempt to do this in the lowest amount of stuff possible so that my stupid ass PC can.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
So
that was me last year.
So the thing
Yeah.
with the layoffs is like Rooster Teeth is still like being restructured by people who don't even know that Rooster Teeth exists. it's unfortunate but not unexpected. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. Like, this is just me. Like it's gonna sound really shitty and cynical, but this is the realist like interpretation of what's going on with Rooster Teeth right now. So
Yeah. Honestly, if I were someone in charge of Warner Media and stuff, I would really try to just merchandise the ever loving fuck out of RWBY, because that shit sells like cures for cancer, and especially now. Like, I don't think we mentioned this before. I don't think we mentioned this before, but RWBY just made a massive appearance in a very, very popular and, to my knowledge, great movie. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. Doctor Sleep. And
That's
it
right,
actually
yeah.
like played a role in Doctor Sleep, which
Did it?
isn't.
What?
Yeah,
I thought it was just a poster.
no, they make several references to it from my understanding. So
Oh,
like,
really? Did not
where
know
are the
that.
action? So like, Warner Media, where are the
Yeah.
action figures? Where are the posters? Where are the figurines? Where are the fucking like the RWBY the lunchbox, RWBY the coloring book, RWBY the flamethrower?
Now that's a good quality.
yeah,
reference
where's my
there.
RWBY figurine so I can hot glue her because she's legal now?
And then they can make
Oh.
RWBY 2, the switch for more money.
So, God damn
RWBY
it.
2 Electric
That's
Boogaloo.
yeah, RWBY 2
It's
Electric
also-
Boogaloo. Well, they
it's a-
also just RWBY also just got its feature from was it Glass Reflection or Gig? No, it was Glass Reflection. Glass Reflection
Glass
just put out
Reflection.
his.
Yeah,
Him and
yeah.
Gigak are like two of the biggest anime channels. Like them
Yeah.
two.
I mean, Giga
joining-
covered it years ago and didn't particularly
Giga covered
think
them
much
years
of it.
ago, and then
Yeah.
and then
What did Glass Reflection say?
he liked it overall. Like he says, like it's not perfect, and
said
it's
the
not
same
really
thing
about the
all
plot,
the
but he likes it
Yeah.
and he follows it. Like he doesn't follow it religiously, but he still watches it.
Yeah.
Oh, fair
So,
enough. I mean,
it's
I
like-
I
dropped it.
remember
He
I
suggested
don't-
people check it out. Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty positive by like,
yeah, I don't
especially
don't
considering
watch-
he's got good taste because he loves
Yeah.
Nichijou and Dragon Maid. So the dude's got good taste.
You see, I like
Well,
Glass
no, he doesn't.
Reflection.
He
I
I
hate his
don't agree
uniform.
with
though.
everything he said. Sorry.
I don't
Oh,
mind
it's
the
fine. Yeah,
uniform
my
because he
bad.
has one.
I don't
He
necessarily agree with
possibly
everything he says, but like you said, he's a big name, so it's interesting that people are
The thing
that
is
he
that
finally
he's
came
kind of-
around and reviewed
Yeah.
it. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, funny thing about what happened, just to explain the lighting situation. So my light that's above my bed, the fixture isn't very good. And so when people are stomping around upstairs, it will actually knock it loose.
That's fun
Becoming
times.
really inconvenient.
Based and white
Oh,
trash
I believe
pilled.
you.
Yeah. So I don't watch Glass Reflection, though I do remember seeing he did a review. He did a video on RWBY like when it first came out. And I remember watching that when I was first getting into RWBY. And he was liking it then too. And back then it was just like the 4 trailers in the first episode that were out at that
Okay.
time. So hearing that he kind of stuck with it and is, talking about it again, because again, like RWBY, don't listen to like the hero highs of the. I'm not gonna call out hero high on everything, but the whole like doom and gloom aspect that he's been kind of perpetuating, I just
Which
don't
is
buy,
hilarious
because right
because
now RWBY is arguably bigger than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Arguably.
It's really
I think it might have been bigger in Volume 3, and like I think we've mentioned this before. Volume 4 did not do well in Japan. And everything does well in Japan, so that's saying something. So Volume 5 and 6 have not gotten a Japanese dub yet. Maybe they will if Volume 7 picks up the momentum and keeps going the way it is. And if it keeps getting these references in these really big blockbuster franchises like Doctor Sleep, maybe something will come of that.
maybe. Also, just
I'll,
on the subject of Hero High, the first video of his I ever saw was him defending Volume 5, so that should tell you about how much his opinion matters.
Who? Hirohei?
Hirohei, or
Yeah,
Hero
like
High or
he's
whatever.
like he's preaching all this doom and gloom, the show's falling apart, blah blah blah. This guy tried to
Well,
defend Volume 5, so
Okay,
I
well,
already
without-
don't.
Yeah.
I already don't respect them, whoever they are.
exactly.
I'm,
Anyway,
I mean, here's
do we want to talk about the
here's
act?
the thing. Well, I mean, I could talk about that, but
Yeah.
like the thing, I was just gonna put in that I don't particularly like Arcadia, because all he does is just have a positive skew on most things. Like he tends to lean in that direction more. He's really, I wouldn't call him a shill, but like he's kind of up there in that department.
Yeah.
Who is this you're talking about?
That's a Glass Reflection. That's the guy
Okay.
from Glass
Yeah.
Reflection.
I only watched like the things that he's reviewed that I like. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't like his
that's-
uniform.
I don't
That's
know.
all I'm gonna say. I like his videos. I hate his uniform. I think it's autistic and cringe. But he does put out good videos.
It's
All right,
Like I
so
said,
as
so
Robert said,
someone is
episode,
echoing.
right?
I think it's
Yeah. Yeah, let's get into the episode. So we start off interesting enough with this kind of shot of Penny getting a head pat from a robot arm. It's
yeah.
Man, I wish
that becomes
I could
more relevant.
afford like a $500,000 Fanuc robot arm to pat me on the head whenever I was feeling down. That would be
I feel like
great.
that's-
Apparently,
that's
they
a-
tried one of those once to get babies to fall asleep, but all it did was make them even more upset and fussed.
Yeah.
If I had
I
a
feel like-
Fanuc robot arm trying to rock me to sleep as a baby, I'd freak the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, babies don't like the strangeness of they prefer familiarity.
I want mommy's Khazar milkers as a baby.
I feel like this is like a good thing for a rich family to possess, because that way they basically have a robot maid that takes care of their kid. You know, Like,
And then they wonder why their kid's such a terrible asshole whenever it grows up.
yeah, it's probably how Whitley came up.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
recently
probably.
read an old Star Wars. I recently read an old Star Wars book with a character who was raised by 3PO droid or protocol droids.
Oh.
Oh man, just
It was
imagine how
genius.
weird it would
Sorry,
be. It's like
that was
Jock,
random.
Jock trying to pitch pennies, buys the maid bot, and then he just buys the sex bot upgrades for it. And he's like, there we go. So like, I'm
So-
done
Probably
plundering
not
your
getting any
wife.
from the missus.
I doubt it. I guarantee you Jock's probably got like mistresses out the ass, in all honesty.
Yeah, probably.
So getting back into it, one note I want to make before we get into the twin linked hydraulic penis of a problem we have at the beginning of this episode. We have the last of the thirsty moms carrying her kid through the city streets as Ironwood initiates a curfew. Why is he initiating a curfew? Well, because for the second episode in a row, they decided to skip the action.
I swear
Oops.
I did not
Yeah.
want to be right about this.
You totally called that though. You called two
Oh,
things. Two big things.
I called both of the problems with this episode, and I did not want to. You guys had me believing I was wrong. And
Well,
Yeah,
I
high powered. Stop calling shit.
Fuck.
Fuck. God damn it.
Well, no. Well, did you
No,
call? What did
but-
High Powered call? Because
I haven't
Robert called two of
I
them.
haven't called shit this fucking volume.
Yeah, I was gonna say right now it's Robert's
Is Nostradamus.
yeah, he's Robert Damus or whatever the fuck you
yeah,
want to call it.
yeah,
We're-
Rob, yeah.
We're
I-
just we're just reversing roles all over
Yeah.
the place.
You
here.
called two of the problems with this episode because the other problem with this episode is Ren and Nora. Nobody called that, unfortunately.
yeah,
I will debate that, but we'll
Okay,
talk.
I'm interested to hear that. I would like to hear that. But let's
Yeah,
get to
we'll
the
get to
first
that.
issue of skipping the action.
Yeah. So here's
so
my
s-
question. Here's my question about this. Do you think this had anything like? Do you think they had to skip this action sequence because of the problems that the animation department was having early in the year? Like, do you think that was in any way linked to them having to skip over these two major action sequences?
That is a distinct possibility. People have commented that maybe they're saving the fight budget for something big later on in the volume. To me, this smells a lot more like the problem we had with Volume 4, particularly with Yang's plot in Volume 4, where the really important beats are still here, but a lot of the meat is being stripped off the bone. So we have the bones, we have the skin, we have the garnish, but there's no like muscle tissue there to really connect everything together. And I think that's what, a really good engaging action scene in the Streets of Mantle would help do for this. In the same way that seeing more of Yang's training and Yang's recovery would have helped her arc in Volume 4, seeing more of Vice's training with the singing and giving her a moment with her mom would have helped her arc in Volume 4. And giving Blake less to do would have helped her arc in Volume 4.
Yeah, and I mean, it's always the question, too. It's the what-if question of, like, what the fuck is sitting on the cutting room floor at Rooster Teeth?
Yeah.
Is like the one question that I always bring up, like, every volume. It's like, what was planned and what got cut? And then there's a part of me, it's like, man, I kind of don't want to know what's been cut, because, like, the volume could be shit if they were going to throw everything they wanted to throw in it. So,
or it's
This
going to
is
be
like-
even more infuriating when you realize how great it could have been.
Yeah.
This is
go
like the
ahead,
sort of thing that's gonna come out on like a special edition Blu-ray or whatever they end up selling at the very end.
Well,
that, like
I would buy that.
To my knowledge, and to, like, historically speaking, a lot of the cuts Rooster Teeth makes in their production happens at the scripting phase. So a
And they're
lot of the
generally
shit
pretty
that so a
tight-lipped
lot
about
of
it,
the
too.
shit so a lot of the shit that gets cut doesn't even make it past like the like cinema the what are they called?
cinematography.
No, the
I don't even think it hits
Pre-production?
storyboarding.
animatics, the animatic stage.
Ah,
Where they're like doing the test run of like what things should look like when it actually does get animated. So to my knowledge, like a lot of the stuff that does end up getting cut doesn't even make it past that stage, and so it'll just never see the light of day. Like the Pyrrha versus Sun fight in Volume 3 that was supposed to happen. Which is the whole reason why they like created that anti-grav biome for Amity Coliseum. They built it for like Pyrrha and Nora versus Sun and Neptune, and then that whole fight just ended up getting cut before before the animation was like really started.
Should
They
have just
basically
replaced
replaced
Team
that
Juniper versus Team Juniper versus Team Bronze with Team Juniper versus Team Sun.
well, no, if
Yeah.
you recall, those were basically two just like funny interludes. They didn't really have much animation to them at all. Like
Yeah,
so they were made specifically to be cheaper.
I know, but
And the other thing
still.
too is like they could have just done another montage. I mean, we've gotten so many montages right now. You think there was a buy one get 18 for free sale at the montage store, and I mean they could have spent like a minute on it at the beginning of the episode of them just like punching random ass Grim between like
It was
you
a-
know
it was sort of a semi montage. They had a cut to Robin and her team stealing stuff and the
Yeah.
guys.
Oh yeah,
patrolling
Sheep
the
Lady's got a
streets.
fucking stand of being able to fucking pull shit into a pocket dimension. Apparently, that's fucking
Yeah.
Yeah,
useful.
like a black hole semblance or something.
I think it's more like an illusion, more on par with something like what Neo does, because I don't think she's pulling it into another dimension. She's like putting this barrier around the area that
like
makes
she's just glamoring it.
Oh,
whatever
no,
she wants
so-
that makes whatever she wants within the barrier invisible.
Well, so
Oh,
I
no,
think
we were
May's the
talking
one who
about-
does that, but then we see
Oh
Fiona
yeah,
like put her hand on
May
the
does
and
that, and then
yeah, and then Fiona
yeah,
puts her hand
Fiona
on it and
has
it flows into her palm.
yeah, Fiona has the wind tunnel from Inuyasha.
Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, Miroku's power.
Except it's apparently reversible because they can get all the stuff they stole back out of it.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So
I bet
so
all the
it's like
chop
the
shops
hand.
in Mistral love Robin Hill. They're like sweet as they're sitting there revving up their grinders and cutting torches.
Yeah, which another minor complaint. Fiona is just absolutely fine.
I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, it's a
very good.
laceration.
I mean,
She
how
didn't get
I'm also
disemboweled by
wondering
it.
like how much time has passed between this and
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I
This
thought
in the last episode.
what
So-
happened.
it's been at least a week. It's been at least a week.
probably, yeah.
I do agree that like
Um,
Fiona should have died or should have had more serious injuries than that. Kind of took away from the impact of like what happened to her in the previous episode.
Well, it also created this really big red flag plot hole thing called aren't most Faunus supposed to have night vision? So shouldn't the default assumption be, oh, Faunus, night vision. What the fuck, Tyrion?
Well,
she-
hold up. I have to bring up what they brought up. It was in the original exposition of that, the word was not most, it was many. So there are many who have it, but not most technically.
Which
But
is
from what was said.
also kind of dumb because that means the
It
ones who
still
do
feels
technically
like a
do-
cop out.
Eh,
But then
And there's still all the problems that I pointed out last week. Penny's swords glow. They were nowhere near Fiona when she was attacked. Penny's silhouette would look nothing, or Tyrion's silhouette would look nothing like Penny. Penny tackled Robin to the ground, but didn't attack her, even though she probably could have.
Yeah, couldn't they do like the Spider-Man 3 thing where they show like the footage that Watts stole of Penny and be like,
Also-
look, this is literally what happened. He literally just took this and posted it over Tyrion.
yeah,
Speaking of that footage, by the way, it seems to. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe it's supposed to be from like one of the RWBY. With like night vision or something, but it shows Penny killing people in a brightly lit room. So Robin Hill should have. So like, if that's the case, Robin Hill should have taken one look at that and said, "That is not what happened. I was there. That is definitely doctored," and realized that. And then finally, the wounds would have looked nothing like Penny's swords. An autopsy would have proven Penny's innocence. So the fact that this is a week later, they still think she did it. They've had time for the autopsies, and yet they think that she did this is Robin being an idiot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
And I'm also-
then the other, and then I also like to unveil my trap card of it's like, but what if, their eyes have to adjust like normal human being eyes to see at night? I mean, you go
Yeah,
from fully
plenty of
bright
time
to,
adjust.
I mean, it all happened in less than like 1 minute. Whenever Tyr was going pumped up kicks inside the political rally. God, I love
guess.
referring it to it like that.
You
But,
just,
Yeah.
when it comes to conspiracies and stuff, you always have to ask, okay, who benefits from
a
this?
specific
Gee,
desert
if
tribe.
only, hold on, if only there was, someone who maybe sent a message to every screen in Remnant back in Volume 3 or something, or someone who maybe hacked Atlas technology before and I don't know, maybe slaughtered a bunch of people in Vale. And oh yeah, exactly what the fuck Cinder did in Volume 3. Why is Robin
I am
not
surprised that
making
nobody's bringing up Cinder. I am kind of surprised by that nobody is saying is like bringing up Cinder or anything
Or like this
that.
seems
Like,
oddly familiar to what happened in Vale at the Vital Festival.
yeah, that's also a little frustrating
Like-
that nobody's even mentioning Cinder at this point. Like, I don't know. I know like she's probably not going to be in this volume at this point, but it still helped to.
Do you know what
Bring
RWBY
her up.
needs right now? RWBY needs a John Jonah Jameson and/or an Alex Jones. That's what it needs right now in this series. I could just imagine being like, this evil demon named Salem is trying to get all of the with her demonic powers is trying to turn us all against each other. So don't believe what's on the news. She's got a group of
Dave,
Ironwood's trade restrictions are trying to turn the Grim gay.
for 80 years they made us believe that Atlas floated because of gravity dust. Yet there's nowhere near enough gravity dust on the bottom of Atlas for it to float. How is it floating? We deserve to know.
See, that's perfect. Two things that are complete bullshit and one thing that is frighteningly accurate. That's Alex Jones.
Holy crap.
Yep.
I love Alex Jones because he's off about a lot of stuff, but the stuff he's on though, he's fucking on.
Like when you talked about the Star Wars prequels, it actually like nailed the whole Palpatine got to power by playing the victim thing.
Yep.
But
Pretty much,
so then the
yeah.
episode
So
boiled. We get some info on the cost of Penny's quote unquote revivals.
Yeah, we get that a little later. Because what we
Yeah.
get after we get the hijacking of the truck is the scene of Ironwood kind of like throwing a hissy fit and kind of revealing how much of a dick he's not, because he's like, I could take this a lot further if I wanted to, but I'm not going
Yeah.
to because he's like, he knows Nora is right. He knows that like declaring martial law and stuff would just bring more Grimm and just,
Yeah.
it would get, Robin. It would help him pin down Robin. It would help him like get Jacques off his back. But you'd just be trading all those problems for the Grimm. Like Nora is right in that assessment, but
Yeah.
it's something he has to think about because it is an option he has on the table, and
Yeah.
nothing else matters besides Amity at this point for him.
Yeah. And I think what we're really I do really like Ironwood in this scene, and I like Nora for being kind of that. I don't know, like she's yelling a lot, and and like I think anyone other than Sam Ireland might have trouble with this scene, but Sam Ireland does a good job of playing off this outraged, frustrated character. And again, we're probably going to be getting her backstory. She was probably born in Mantle or something like that, but like she's definitely got some righteous anger going on for everything that's been, for regarding Ironwood's plan. But she's also kind of this, I don't know, kind of this conscience to him, and I like this take on Ironwood that he's essentially a good man in really difficult, hard times. Like, bad times bring out the worst, have a way of bringing out the worst in good people. And like, I think that's what it is with Ironwood. It's kind of a he who fights monsters situation with him, where and he muses on this later on, where he says, I maybe Cinder's lack of humanity is what gives her such an advantage. He's having to struggle to not become a monster himself, essentially, while trying to stop Salem. So I think that's pretty interesting in this scene. And Nora's kind of the, Nora's, this really outraged person, yelling like, you can't do this. This is wrong. And Ruby's the one who's kind of stepping forward, like, okay, she's right though. You gotta, I don't know, Ruby's being the calmer one here, which I think is, really good. And that's kind of been Ruby's role since volume 5, honestly, where she's the one who's like, okay, things are getting out of control. I'm going to step in and say, what do we need to do? Essentially, this has kind of become her role, which is really cool and really on par with her. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really have a huge problem with what Nora said because I agree. I can understand her logic for saying what she said. I don't want her backstory because we already got her relevant backstory. If you didn't already notice, the thing I was saying this before the podcast in like a different group that was in chat. Thing is, we got Nora's backstory. All these people asking for Nora's backstory, we got it. Do you not realize we basically got just as much of Nora's backstory as we did Ren's, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was slightly told from Ren's perspective, but Ren's mom telling him to go buy something for his dad and him just being like a dumb, cute Asian kid with a British accent going around to try to buy things, that's not a backstory, okay? That was just a setting for him to go meet Nora, right? And then all we see is that his parents are killed and he meets Nora and it's fucking adorable and they are perfect together. And when is their baby coming? But for Nora, we saw basically the same thing. She does the same amount of information. She does not have parents. She is all alone as a child who is probably under 10 years old or maybe 11 at the most, right? And she's being bullied by kids that actually have parents and, stuff, right? She has to steal to eat. And then the Nuklave attacks, probably because of her, not really her fault, but because of her likely. And then she meets Ren, same thing, right? That's the same amount of backstory.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't know anything about Ren really, besides he was a coward and then he wasn't, and he had parents. Nora, we actually kind of know just as much about Nora because we know that she had nothing. She was struggling. She had to steal, like to survive. She was very, very frightened. She was nothing like the person that we see today at all. So, if anything, we got as much, if not more, like personality information from Nora than we did from Ren.
Yeah.
So I wonder why people are saying we need Nora's backstory. And I'm not saying that's what you said, Robert. I'm saying you're saying that you're expecting to get it, and I don't think you're wrong. Unfortunately, I think we're getting it whether we should have it
They
or
said
not.
we are. So
Oh, they did.
yeah, pretty sure that they said that we are. And but you are right, and I agree 100%. Like, no, the relevant, like, we already know that Nora grew up on the streets, that she was poor that she was poor and grew up in lower class areas for most of her life. That's why that's why she's outraged by what Ironwood's doing right
Yeah,
now. That's why
that all
she
makes sense.
sympathizes with Mantle. We don't necessarily. There doesn't have to be this whole other thing of like, oh, she grew up in Mantle before she was actually old enough for that to even matter to her or anything like that. So
Yeah,
here's
I
my-
do agree we don't need it, but we're probably gonna get it.
They're gonna do that over explaining thing. This is what I complained about as well. My comparison again is to Avatar: The Last Airbender, where in original Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is arguably but pretty overwhelmingly convincingly the best animated TV show of all time. Maybe Batman the animated series has a case, but that's it, right? That it's probably Avatar. Even if you include anime, it's Avatar. Okay? They didn't over explain things. They explained what they needed to, but they never over explained anything. Okay? We got characters' general backstories, but we just still didn't need to get every single piece of information about everything. Okay, we didn't know everything about the Avatar, and that's fine. We didn't need to. It's great. And then in Core, which was crap, they go and over-explain things like, "Oh, the origin of the Avatar." Did we need to know that? No, we did not need to know that. That was fucking pointless. Whether you can argue whether it was well done or not, it doesn't matter. We didn't need it. It's pointless. Okay, don't over-explain things. Don't explain the magic. All right. It's not because I don't like Nora and I don't. Y'all know I love Nora. Okay, and Ren and Nora together are my favorite character. Nora is my second favorite after Weiss if we're going just by individual characters. It's not like I don't care about her. I just don't give a shit. I don't need to see Weiss's relationship with her mom. I don't care. All right, we don't need that. Focus on Weiss. Focus on Ren and Nora now. My big issue with this is not Nora, it's the way Ren reacted to it. I don't know if we're talking about that yet.
Not yet.
Okay,
I mean, we might as well because it's all.
Yeah, because I think it all goes together. If they're saying that we're going to get,
there's a couple. We'll backtrack a little.
If they're saying we're going to get Nora's backstory, my hope, if that's what they're doing, then that hopefully is a trigger or like some sort of like way they explain her backstory, and then like she can talk about it to Ren or something and get him to stop being a fucking bootlicking Boy Scout bitch, and then they can just be together, okay? Because
I take offense to that. I'm a Boy Scout.
You know the way I'm using it, okay?
I
don't
know.
like. I don't mind what Nora said. Nora's thing, what she said makes sense. It makes sense for her to say it, backstory or not, and she was right. She's not wrong, okay? And Ironwood listened to her, so that's a good scene. It's just the way Ren reacts, like just because he's relatively stoic and he's always trying to be calm, and he's not good with words. He's literally said he's not good at talking. That doesn't mean he's a Boy Scout automatically. Like he's just going to listen to everything Ironwood says. Okay. Like that, I don't understand where that's coming from. Now, so that I don't like, I'm scared. I would have rather the conflict between Ren. I did ask last time, right? They need to discuss things. And they need to actually like still have a little bit of conflict before they really resolve everything. But this isn't the way I wanted to do it. I wanted to talk about them. If Nora's backstory comes out and that becomes a way for them to talk about them, then I'm cool with it, and I like that. If not, and that's actually what I think. I'm going to trust them because overall, these writers are still doing a better job than Allison Carey, this is still the best volume, even though I
Well,
didn't love this episode.
it kind of fits with the way that, like, because Ren sees I feel like Ren's more of a big picture sort of guy, and he knows it's gonna suck, and he buys into into Ironwood's thought process, and I mean, for the most part, like, Ironwood's plan makes sense.
Yeah, I'll get to my view on.
And I like Nora saying her piece, and for me, like, the way that I see Ironwood, like, in this situation is, it's like Ironwood is essentially a beneficent dictator, pretty much. Like, that's kind of how he's portrayed in this.
You mean benevolent?
Volume. Yeah, benevolent dictator.
Yeah,
like, that's how he's portrayed in this volume.
Starting to drift into less benevolent, but yeah, at the beginning of this volume, he was definitely. I said this. He was that. He was a dictator as dictators were meant to be. Someone who takes over in a time of crisis to try and clean things up, and then doesn't care about holding on to power afterwards. And he probably still doesn't care about holding on to power afterwards.
Yeah, he's trying to make the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, and the way that it kind of feels like it's like Ironwood's probably got like an army of bureaucrats that handle the day-to-day stuff, but then he's just there to like handle like, oh, this shit needs to be handled right now. It's like he's like, watch this.
I'm not sure if he uses a whole lot of bureaucrats. He doesn't seem like the guy that would trust those types of people.
Yeah, I don't trust bureaucrats either. I've been bent over the barrel by bureaucrat gang for like this entire year. It's not even funny.
Oh yeah. Getting your taxes like in early December.
I still haven't gotten them.
Oh my god. It's almost time to file for taxes again.
They can have them. I don't care at this point. I've written off that grand.
Yeah. But
I imagine that Ironwood probably just dozes off for most of the council meetings talking about stuff that he doesn't care about.
Yeah.
And then he's like wide awake for the stuff that he actually thinks is important and is actually like relevant to Salem and what's going on. But
yeah. So what I wanted to say about Written is that I don't think it's so much that he agrees with Ironwood. I think it's because Ironwood is literally the only one with a plan. He's the only one who has like anything actually like going on. Like, yeah, he doesn't have all the information. He doesn't know that Salem is immortal. That's going to throw a wrench into things. But right now, it's still better than what Ozpin has had for the last, I was going to say 80 years since the Great War, but let's actually go the long mile and say since the beginning of this modern human civilization.
Yeah, that's true. You're not wrong. The thing is, like, I'm being negative right now, but again, I don't necessarily think this is going to stay like annoying like this. I think they will resolve it because they did that earlier kind of with Renora when like Nora does the thing like where she said, I love what you did with your hair, and he just ignores her. I'm like, really? Like, that's either bad or they're gonna do something about it. Well, they did something about it, so it's fine. What I was saying, another thing I was saying earlier before the podcast started was they're doing this weird thing that these writers where they set up an issue and they leave it on a cliffhanger for like an episode or two, and then they resolve it an episode or two later, which is kind of annoying when it's episode by episode and you actually like really care about Renora like I do. And then like I don't really care about all the other things they leave as cliffhangers. I care about that one though. And like it's fun, like if you make it as like a full volume, you watch it all in a row, it's fine. It's not a problem. But right now it's like a little bit, it's nerve-wracking. I just want them to be together and I don't want them to turn into like the couple that just like is arguing like most stupid, terrible sitcoms do. I don't want this to turn into Arrow. I don't want this to turn to Arrow. Okay, I want them to turn. You know what I mean? I don't want them to turn into Felicity and I forget the guy's name, Stephen Amell from Oliver from Arrow. I don't want them to turn into that. I want them to turn into what's her not Allison Hannigan and Jason Segel, or from How I Met Your Mother, or Aubrey Plaza and Chris Pratt from
Monica and Chandler from
Parks and Rec,
from Friends.
Yeah, Parks and Rec. That's what the show needs also, okay? The show has enough conflict without them fighting with each other the whole time.
Yeah.
Like I expect they're gonna have
Yeah.
a bit of an argument now because of Ren, and Nora's gonna convince her because of her backstory. And if that's what we get, I'll like that. You know, even though I don't need her backstory, I will like that a lot, and it's fine.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on Nora's backstory. I absolutely agree with Dude here, where we don't need it, and I'm gonna say two big things about that. One is actually a shorter thing, just some food for thought. What is wrong with the idea that Nora has an issue with Ironwood because Ironwood's policies create daily grim attacks? Like, isn't that enough motivation for her to get all huffy with him? We don't. Why is a backstory needed for that? It's not. Having her backstory or giving her more of a backstory, we don't need to know whose fucking snatch she slid out of as a fetus. It doesn't change who she is. It doesn't change her as a character. But what it will change is the context of one of the best episodes in the series for the worse. It'll dismantle the thematic parallel that made Kuroyuri such a standout episode. And the other thing, and the example I wanted to use is from Bleach, which is a terrible show. And probably an even worse manga. But the anime didn't get to this point, so spoiler alerts for the manga. I know it wrapped up years ago, and everyone kind of stopped giving a fuck about Bleach like a decade ago. But still, this wasn't in the anime; it was only in the manga. So fair warning. We find out that Ichigo's mom was a Quincy, which were the spirit hunters that used like bows and arrows.
Mhm.
So it created this loop where, you know, Soul Society arc. Oh, you're about to face Soul Reapers. Oh, it turns out you've had Soul Reaper powers this entire time. Then we go into the Arankar and Hueco Mundo arcs where, oh, the main enemies are the Hollows. I almost called them Grim. Are the Hollows. And, oh, it turns out you don't just have like this hollow power from when you trained with Urahara. You have like this super-duper hollow power that is like so much stronger than all these other hollows. And then, you know, we get to the Quincy arc, the Thousand Year Blood War, where, oh, you're fighting Quincy's. Oh, it turns out your mother was a Quincy. And wow, that just actively dismantled everything we knew about your mother beforehand, because what we knew about your mother beforehand was that she was like just this kind-hearted human who got killed by a hollow. And it's just, they actively retconned that his mother's whole death to where it didn't happen the way we were originally told it happened several hundred chapters earlier. And they did that to force in this, oh, we're going to give Ichigo Quincy powers on top of his Soul Reaper and Hollow powers now. Oh, and also Fullbringers, but nobody ever. But oh, and also his Fullbringer powers, but nobody ever was in danger of giving a fuck about the Fullbringers.
Well, okay, here's the thing. I don't think if they give Nora's backstory, it necessarily will ruin Kuroyuri, because what I'm expecting is they're just going to show. I don't think they're gonna reveal all these like things about like power, anything like powers or whatever the fuck. I don't think they're gonna talk about that. I think what they're gonna show is, because obviously the hammer came from Ren, and I really doubt they're dumb enough to retcon that. Because again, Shredder's have mostly been competent, so I'm not like fearing complete stupidity right now. What I'm expecting is them to just explain how she became homeless. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And that does not destroy Kuroyuri. It's unnecessary, obviously, but it doesn't destroy anything if that's what they do. And that's what I'm expecting, because I'm expecting that's how she's going to connect with Ren, and like kind of that's how they're going to fix everything. That's that's what I hope happens. If we have to have her backstory, that's what I want to have happen. And you know what? At least that will get them to fucking talk about stuff. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. That's what I want.
Even like best case scenario for that is still weak when compared to what we've already got.
Yes, agreed. If they had just done it right the first time and kissed when Ren held her hand instead, we wouldn't be having this conversation or any of these issues. It would be great. And they might have their baby already.
Yeah. So I will say this. I don't know. I wouldn't like. I do agree that I definitely do not want one of those like I call them CW hot and cold relationships, fight and break up, kiss and make up and stuff like that, where, every like twice a season, Ren and Nora are breaking up and getting back together and stuff like that. I definitely do not want that, but I I'm apprehensive to say this, but and I'll probably talk a little bit more about this later, but I do think it might be kind of interesting if if this volume ends with a rift being drawn between our main cast, essentially, like Blake and Yang are on one side, Ruby and Weiss are on the other, and yes, maybe Nora and Nora's on one side, Ren's on the other. That might be, I think that could be a really interesting thing, just as long and I might be okay with that just as long as it ends with them reconciling by the end of volume 8 and actually being together. And that is like, I don't know, like obviously relationships are complicated, couples have problems, but they never break up again after that. Okay, I've been binging Friends recently, and like Chandler and Monica is a much better relationship than Ross and Rachel, and they have problems, but they never actually break up. But from the time that they get together to the time that they get married, they never break up, and that's what I think it could maybe be. Is like they have this one rift, like season long rift, where they have to reevaluate themselves and maybe become defined as on their own and not just as a couple, but then it ends with them getting back together and they're just from then on they're just together for the rest of the series. But that's another discussion for later.
I would be completely okay with that too, actually, and the reason why is all because that follows the same path as my favorite like TV couple so far, which is Aubrey Plaza and Chris Pratt from April and Andy from Parks and Rec, where it's the same thing. Yeah. They have their fight beforehand, and then they get together, and then they're just together, and that's it. And we don't have any other fucking problems after that, right?
Yeah.
If that was what happens, I'm kind of fine with it, because then at least we get to have them talk with themselves and other people, and then we get to actually build up like an actual like new relationship, now that they kind of have to do that, considering everything that's gone on, and we actually have to have them like interact and like kind of romance each other again or whatever. I'm good with that. If them doing all this kind of before is fine. If it's that kind of thing, I'm good with it. I don't love the idea of it being like Ren trying to be like a Boy Scout about it. That's what I don't like. But otherwise, I would be okay with it. I don't know if it needs to be a whole season, but I wouldn't complain necessarily either. If they do something like that, then I know that they're going to end up together in the end, so it's fine. I don't mind that. So
I think it's it's a little odd. I do agree that it seems a little odd that Ren would Ren is like, seems very firmly on Ironwood's side with all of this, while Nora is kind of iffy. I feel like I don't know. I feel like it could just be him being the more logistical person, kind of like we said, Ironwood's the only person plan right now. And so I do think, again, we need to talk, we need to hear Ren defend his point here. But yeah, I do think that's kind of an interesting topic there. But so, yeah, it's like, I don't know, it is a little odd, but I'm curious, but I want to see where it goes. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We need to let's move on from this.
Before we move on to the rest of this scene, which I don't think we have much else to talk about with this scene in particular. We talked about like martial law, we talked about Ren and Nora. I just want to address something really retarded that if I wasn't petty about stuff like this, I wouldn't even dignify with the response. But oh, no. I thought we were done with this. Why is there a fucking Rin is Neo theory?
Did it happen again?
There's people saying that
everyone's
Rin
Neo
has been Neo Oh my god! And want to know what their evidence is? There's a shadow on one of his eyes created by his hair textures.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
the
leaving that long,
stupid.
awkward pause in just to let it sink. How fucking stupid these people are.
Let's get off this subject now, please. Let's go to the next
Please,
scene.
yes.
Next scene.
Well, so
Okay. Next scene.
so there's also we also get some of Tyrion's backstory real quick.
Yes, we do.
Oh, yeah, we do. Oh,
he's
shit, we
prison.
almost
So,
forgot
which I
this.
think is really cool, and I have a theory, and it led to a theory from me. Can I talk? Or
Sure,
It's,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
think I know what theory.
Okay,
And yeah,
so Tyrion was so we find out that Tyrion was initially a serial killer. Believe he mostly ran amok in Mistral, probably also in Atlas, because he was eventually caught by a joint task force of Atlas and Mistral, led by a huntsman who can't remember what his name was. There's I think it was
Yeah,
Pankerel or something.
you keep.
Oh,
It made me
God.
think Piccolo or something. It's what it reminded me of when I first read it.
Yeah. F Pickerel.
Yeah, Pickerel. So yeah, F Pickerel caught him, and some more of what it talks about is that he was being transported, maybe to an execution. I don't know, but basically he was being transported. Pickerel was all like, "This guy's gonna try and get away. You guys gotta have more security measures." And ultimately, they never. But they didn't listen to him, so he was taken off the task force. But basically, from the context given, what it sounds like happened is Salem herself showed up with a bunch of Grimm, attacked the transport, and like this was the first time murdered the guards, and like this was the first time Tyrion had ever even met her. And it says that the last sounds heard was Tyrion sobbing, saying "beautiful." So essentially, like Tyrion took one look at Salem and just started worshiping her. And then later on, he apparently went and killed Pickerel, the guy who caught him initially.
Yeah.
But one other thing that I noticed about the article that we
It's
see,
redacted.
yeah, the redacted information, which here's what I think that redacted information is talking about, and I think it's going to tie into things later. I think it's talking about additional prisoners that were in the transport with Tyrion, and one of those prisoners was Watt. So what I think is going to happen is that later, and the other one might have been Hazel, because it mentions multiple people.
I wouldn't like all three of them being on the train
Yeah, so
because
maybe
it's like,
not Hazel.
oh wow, Salem really
Yeah.
did just get all of her top tier
She
henchmen
just
from the same
hit the
transport. Like,
hit the
no.
jackpot.
I would like it for I
But-
would be okay if it's not Watt or if it's no one relevant, but I would like it for it to be Watts and Tyrion on that transport because it would make their dynamic a little more interesting because like they are kind of the tag team duo of the fucking century right now.
They really are.
Yeah, right now, yeah. And I think it would
They
also
are
be
so fun
could
to
also-
watch.
Yeah, and I think it could also be really handy with with like what the series is, or with the current mystery that they're dealing with, because they're trying to figure out who hacked and all that, who hacked them and all that, because to their knowledge, Tyrion is the only one from that transport who survived. And so they said that such and such has gone missing and they are assumed dead. So what I think is going to happen is like the characters are good, because Ironwood also says we need to figure out what's going on with Tyrion. So he's going to be having people looking into it as well as patrolling the dust shipments to try and stop Robin Hill. So what I think is going to happen is probably Ruby and Weiss are going to be looking over this stuff. They're going to get a hold of the non-redacted notice. They're going to find out, oh, who was this Arthur Watt guy? Oh, he was just some scientist. He's no one important. Everyone
and then
just
they
plays
find
it
out
off.
that he's one of the few people who would be able to hack everything, and
Yeah,
he's like,
they're
oh
gonna,
my god, all clicks together.
Yeah, like they're gonna be at Jacques' party or something. They're gonna hear either Jacques or Whitley name drop Arthur or Watt, and they're gonna be like, "Wait, what?" And then find, and then it's gonna like fall together. They're gonna realize, "Oh my gosh, this guy is the only what if this guy survived? What if this guy was the only man who could have pulled off these hacking feats is the one who's been helping Tyrion. So I think that would be really cool. But yeah, so we get some interesting backstory into Tyrion. We find out, yeah, we get his full origin story right there in that article.
Oh my
'cause,
god! And they
I don't
show
know.
it instead of like just telling us in an exposition dump.
Well,
Yeah,
the
so
other thing too
I am
is like
so yeah, I
Can
am
we-
down.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
well, what I
So
want to
yeah, I am
add.
definitely
Oh,
excited to see.
I'm sorry, but what I want to say too is like, it kind of would be interesting if how Watts came to Salem simply because he's Hacker Man 9000. He's like, oh, let's just see what state secrets have come across my desk now. As he's sitting there clacking away on the keyboard, he's like, huh, okay. And like literally,
Like what?
he
Like
just he just finds out about Salem in some like redacted documents that he hacked into, and he's like, well, I guess it's like maybe I'll go
Like-
see if this is true. Like that would actually, I would be super okay if that was the case of like
like
how he
yeah,
discovered
like
Salem.
like what if
Like
Salem attacked that
Curiosity-
transport? Like what if Salem attacked that transport to get Watts, and Tyrion just happened to be there?
Oh yeah. Can we just point out though that like the RWBY villains are actually really good this volume, and usually the RWBY villains
Oh,
are
yeah.
trash.
Yeah, Tyrion
Well-
and
And
Watts
they're,
are fucking
and they're
amazing.
not right now. Like Tyrion Watts tag team is so much fun to watch right
Yeah.
now, and I love it. It's great. I think that's partly why this volume, like every time it's like, hey, it's still good. Like even when I'm kind of upset about something, it's still good because the villains are still great. We never really have that in RWBY. They're usually trash tier.
Yeah,
Even even Watts and Tyrion have been kind of trash before.
yeah.
They're better
I
now.
remember. I think it was Raymond over on Team Frostbite that said way back in Volume 4 that said that they basically split Roman Torchwick into two different, more powerful characters, and it was Watts and Tyrion. So that's actually what this kind of reminds me of. It's just Torchwick if we actually got to see all the cool shit he supposedly did off screen on screen. Like I really
I
like,
see what you're saying. Yeah.
you know, the sophistication with the crazy and the combat prowess with the mental prowess is just, you know, it's basically two Torchwicks for the, well, I guess it's one Torchwick for the price of two, but it's they are a lot of fun together for a lot of the same reason why Torchwick was a lot of fun back in the day.
Yeah, when I say RWBY villains are bad, like Torchwick was fun, but he never really felt threatening. Like
He got jobbed out. He got jobbed out really hard throughout Volume.
these guys like feel the whole time he never really felt threatening. These guys feel they are threatening. We've seen it, and they're fun and they're like interesting. So that's why this is like better. This is working very well for me right now, and I'm so happy we don't have to bother with fucking Cinder right now. It's great.
Yeah, so I think that's all we really have
And
with
then it's
this scene.
and then the next thing is what, the
Um,
Blake and Yang scene? Question mark.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
Blake and Yang get put on transport.
I actually really like this scene between the two of them because there's conflict between. This is like the best scene those two characters have had, I think, forever. Like I'll be real blunt about it. So
Definitely
It's
in
a
this
good.
volume.
This whole scene with them is actually I really like it a lot.
So
And
first of all, the big thing was
weird.
too is they addressed the fact that they killed a fucking guy, is the big one, which is something that I hope they would actually bring up. If y'all recall the podcast last year,
Yeah.
is that they bring that up. They're like, oh hey, like, you know, we did actually like kill someone, and Blake is like, well, I don't want to have to do that sort of stuff ever again. And then Yang is essentially like quoting the Goofy animation where it's like, I'll fucking do it again. Is basically what Yang was saying during that. But then also too,
Yeah.
they both agree too, where it's like, hey, well, we're gonna like reach out to Robin Hill to see if we could bring her onto our side. And this is like the fucking like web of lies and half truths, and what people do know, what people don't know, is just getting more and more tangled, and they're gonna have to square that circle eventually, or that like
in a good way.
underwater like 3-dimensional dexahedron, whatever geometric shape
Yeah.
it should be.
yeah,
Yeah.
I loved that they addressed stuff between each other, and it was like a real conversation, and it felt it felt natural. There was no cheesiness. It was great. It makes me shit Bumblebee more.
Yeah,
So
they didn't turn them into fucking jokes like they have the last
yeah.
couple of.
This is the
Yeah.
kind. Here's the thing. I'm sorry. Like again, I don't hate Black Sun. I agree with the Black Sun shippers that Black Sun got totally jobbed. I'm sorry, but you can't argue. This definitely pushes Bumblebee forward because it's actual human relationships, and it works. And okay, you could argue that like they're just being friends. That's fine too. I don't really care either way. But this is one of those things that if they become nowadays, this is more evidence than anything else because they already have the flirting and that kind of stuff. They've already done that. Now they actually have like a real relationship, like, and they're respecting each other and they're talking and they're doing all that shit. Okay. Even if they're just friends, this is a great scene, whichever way, but it does kind of hint. All the other stuff makes us hint toward Bumblebee. Also, what the fuck? Blake like had a good idea, is being reasonable and smart and not being a complete idiot, and I agree with her, like with her plan to how to talk to Robin and everything. Like, this is great. I like it. What the fuck? I don't hate Oscar as much anymore. I don't hate Blake as much anymore. What's going on right now?
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. And this is something that I really like about this episode in general, actually, is that we have probably like the most diversity in opinions and ideas of how to handle the current situation that we've gotten, I think, in the entire show. Like, we've got Nora,
Yeah.
who is completely outraged with everything, that he was kind of outraged at AA with what Ironwood's doing. We've got, Ironwood, who's scared and trying his hardest to do things right. We have Ruby, who's, agreeing with Nora, but still trying to work with Ironwood. We have Ren, who's, going soldier mode. We have, Yang, who's questioning Ruby's decision, but at the same time understands where, Blake's coming from and wants to trust Robin Hill. Then we have
Yeah.
Blake, who is, who is, kind of starting to see things more from Robin Hill's side. And again, this is why
Well,
I think
yeah.
there's probably going to be like they might be building up a rift with this volume. I wish we'd gotten Jean in this episode to see what he thought about
Yeah,
this.
John doesn't show up at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's not even there. He doesn't
I mean,
exist.
he's in. Hold on, he's in the room, obviously, right? Hold on, let me.
No,
I don't
think he is.
I don't.
I'll talk about when we talk about like Oscar's convert. Well, okay.
Wait, yeah, he's not. Why are Nora and Rin there? Oh, because
Yeah.
they were the ones who were in the rally. Okay.
Well,
I
here's
see.
the other
yeah,
thing
that,
too. Also,
yeah, that I can kind of understand. So yeah, for some reason, Jean's not in this episode, and I'll talk when we talk about like Oscar's whole thing, try and
Yeah.
make my point
But,
again. But no. So we've got these very diverse sets of ideas and opinions in this episode, and I really, really like that. I think that's that's actually some really good writing. It makes these characters feel more like individuals instead of just these teams or these pairs within these teams, basically. And I also I do also like that Blake brings up the fact that they killed Adam and that she's not necessarily okay with it. I am iffy on the bit where she's all like, I never want to have to do that again. First of all, this is not technically that's not the first time Blake's killed people. She's like in volume 2, she threw a bunch of guys off of a train where they were definitely killed by Grimm, if not by the fall. So,
Yeah.
that was not the first time she's killed.
Yang literally punches someone into an exploding train car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so-
so this is not the first time these characters have killed.
I felt,
and also just like their job description is going to require them to kill. They're gonna have to kill. So Blake, believing that thinking, I never want to kill again. That's, I don't know. If like one person pointed out that maybe this could be leading into a plot line where Blake has to really think about whether or not she's actually like cut out to be a huntress, whether or not it's what she really wants, which could be really cool. But like right now, it's kind of like that's
it's war.
To make a
that's
Marvel
not gonna happen,
comparison
Blake, I'm sorry.
So
to this power
so
dynamic. I'm sorry, BD, you go first.
So I felt that the whole oh, I never want to kill again thing was really stupid because it was obviously addressing a complaint that only stupid people made,
Yeah.
which was like, oh, they murdered Adam. Like, motherfucking bitch. He was gonna fucking kill them.
Yeah. I
Uh,
saw one person
like, no,
claiming that
that's
it was just
self-defense.
Ying that
That's just
committed murder for stabbing him in the back. It's like, I don't know. I wish Coop was here. I would ask him if you're, if you're in the
no, if you're
military
in,
and the guy's fighting your buddy and trying to kill your buddy, and you stab the guy trying to kill your buddy in the back, you get like nobody's gonna call you a murderer for that, right?
I'm a quote Darth Bane. Honor is for the living.
So like
Uh,
this is kind of going to
so
bring up my point is like if we want to make a Marvel comparison to kind of like how this is how I feel the thought dynamics are. It's like Blake is feeling more like a Spider-Man where she's like I'd rather throw people in prison, where Yang is like in the Spider-Man and Punisher like team up comics where Punisher's like, "Hey, Spider-Man, watch this." As he just fucking blows someone's brains out. It's like, there we go. Problem's fucking solved. Because
when
like
the real the real
and
logical thing for superheroes to do is to actually be the Captain America, where like, yeah, I'm not going to kill you if I already beat you. I'm not going to like kick you when you're down, but I have no problems throwing your ass through a propeller.
yeah. Well, you see, that's
Yeah.
that's the thing that I took away from this engagement is like, and as I said earlier, is Yang is fully into it's like I'll fucking do it again, as I'm quoting the fucking goofy like animation skit right there, where Blake doesn't want to like have to actually kill anyone again, because and this is why I wish she kept Adam's sword at the end of volume 6, because it would be a constant reminder of what she can become. So like they missed a series beat there, and I'm sorry, that's your turn, Robert.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that in turn, like I don't know, in some universes with some characters, I can understand them having no killing rules. All right, Batman, Daredevil, Superman to an extent, he's kind of like Captain. Well, not really like Captain America. He's more like if I can't just throw you in jail, I will. But if you are in like a legitimate threat that I can't just take care of with minimal effort, then I'll probably go for the kill, like with Darkseid, basically. But with those characters, I can understand them having no killing rules. In this universe, in the RWBY universe, it doesn't make sense for them to have no killing rules. They've never, it's never been an issue before now. It's like never been a thing, and so it just doesn't make sense
Well,
in this universe.
and it doesn't make sense morally, and it doesn't make sense from a production standpoint because RWBY is not a show meant to go on forever, indefinitely.
Also, that's the other reason why comic book heroes don't kill, because
like
they
the
need
reason why the reason why superheroes don't kill is because most comic book writers are kind of lazy when it comes to creating new characters, which is why we haven't had like a new legit Batman villain in the last 20 years. Like I think the last one to crop up was Hush. And that was almost 20 years ago. That was 2003 that comic book came out. And before that you'd have to go to Bane, and before that you'd have to go to Killer Croc, and so that's only like 3 big new villains since the 80s for Batman. So it creates, you could just keep dragging out the same villains over and over again, but then that also leads to creative stagnation. There's a reason why Batman hasn't been good in the last 30 years, as far as comic book goes.
Another thing to point out is Blake said she didn't want to have to kill again. She didn't make a resolution to never do it again. I think there's a difference there.
Yes.
I think that's something they might explore further, and I can understand why she feels that way, but that might be something else to explore as well. Like that she might have to, and what happens with that. Like she might have to kill to save Yang or something like that. I could very much see something like that happening.
So one thing I wanted to address on the you got noise coming. But one thing I wanted to address as far as a positive for them, why I like this. This is kind of a stroke of genius. I almost don't want to give them the benefit of a doubt and say that they did this on purpose. That it's Blake and Yang in this situation. I know they had to have, right? Because Blake. But at the same time, it's like, no, this is almost too clever for them to have pulled off. It was probably one of the new writers being like, oh yeah, Blake grew up in a fucking political movement. Of course she'd be the one taking Robin's side. Robin is very much in the same situation her parents were. And then you have, Yang, who was the one who was most furious with Ozpin, as far as the secrets go, was the one who got really huffy when Ozpin pushed out and retreated inside Oscar's subconscious, and is now like, since Volume 5 has just been kind of going with the flow as far as RWBY goes, but that hasn't been helping. And now she's trying to be like, okay, I have someone else to talk to about this stuff. I have Blake now. And this is this scene. I mentioned this in my review, but it's like, it's an actual scene and not a stupid gag that just makes me want to heave my lunch out the door.
And a good scene.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is a great scene.
Very good.
Yeah, it's a good scene. Despite what I said about Blake and her maybe having a no killing rule, which she definitely should not have, unless I don't know, unless they're going somewhere interesting, unless they're trying to go somewhere interesting with that, like she retires from being a huntress at the end of the series or something. That could be kind of interesting. But unless they're going with that, like she shouldn't have a no killing rule. But yeah, no, this was a good scene, like I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like that it was Blake, and I do think that part at least was on purpose. I think they got lucky with Yang because they just had to pair her with Blake, and that was more important for the scene. But I do think Blake's reaction was on purpose. And what I really like, though, is that she takes Robin's side, but when she talks to Robin, she doesn't just completely take Robin's side, actually. She's trying to reason with her, but if you notice, she's actually still saying that what Ironwood is doing is what they should do. She's not disagreeing
trying to help
with Ironwood's plan. She's disagreeing with Ironwood's method of going about it and how he's not telling people stuff, which also creates the parallel to RWBY not talking to Ironwood, which is great as well. But I love that about Blake here because she's not just being a self-important, annoying piece of shit. She's still supporting Ironwood in a way and saying she agrees with his plan, but she's trying to, instead of just trying to fight Robin, she's trying to convince her and reason with her, which is great. That's what I love. Like, this is Blake being extremely intelligent and a nice, good person. This is great.
Yeah.
I love this.
Like, could the scene have been better? Yeah. Blake's outfit is still fucking garbage, and it makes her boobs look like she just has tennis balls stuck to them.
You've been complaining about Blake's outfit.
And Barb's line of delivery kind of bugged me in places.
I know. But
God, so did Christina V.
Man,
I guess
speaking of Robin Hill's semblance of basically being a walking fucking truth detector,
having one iota of Toph Beifong's power.
Yeah.
He used to be able to shake people's hand and listen to
lie
them.
detector.
I mean, again, it's frustrating because this is frustrating because she needed to do this to realize that Penny was innocent, which is, dumb and all that. And, if they want, and like we talked about this last week, if they want, if they wanted to do this whole thing of, Robin being against Ironwood and stuff like that, they could have had this whole thing where like, she makes this statement before she goes on the lam where she says, Penny may not have killed those people, but she didn't protect them either. Ironwood is failing Mantle, and so I'm taking things into my own hands. I'm going to do this myself. And it would have worked perfectly fine. And then they could have still had this whole thing of like her stealing dust and them showing up and saying, look, Ironwood is trying to help. He's withholding these resources for a reason, and it would work out. We didn't need this whole, her being an idiot and thinking Penny actually committed those murders. So,
but
I mean, there's nothing really deep about the scene. Like,
it's basically
Robin's weapon is kind of dumb.
Yeah, the fucking
Yeah.
like crossbow fans or whatever the fuck
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah.
Like these are characters who can just swap bullets out of the air. What good is an arrow gonna do?
Oh
Yeah.
god, that's
So-
what I hate the most about this
Again
universe.
with
It's
again with the nicknames, calling Yang fisticuffs.
I
like,
absolutely
know.
hate characters like that.
I feel like that could be kind of endearing in a character. At this point, like I don't know. At this point, it feels like Robin's only redeeming quality is that she's not Jock Schnee.
Like
That really is what it
like,
feels like.
the nicknames work when it's one of two things. Either really simple or really clever. Calling Ying fisticuffs is neither. Calling Crow 5 o'clock shadow on top of being a mouthful, just call him Crow. Like the point of a nickname is that it's a easy like signifier that kind of replaces their name. But Crow doesn't even have 5 o'clock shadow, so it just does not work on any level, no matter how you slice it.
but Crow's an
Call
attractive
it
bad
Ruby
boy,
Pips,
and women
yeah,
are attracted
Ruby.
to attractive bad
Calling
boys.
Ruby Pipsqueak kind of works, but Ruby has had better nicknames given to her by other characters, like
Little Red.
Little Red, like that. That's in the simple category because it's it boils her down to this very signify.
What were the two categories you said? Sorry, like that you said had to be met
Very simple or very clever.
Okay, gotcha. See, here's the thing. I slightly disagree because, and this is just from my own personal experience, that I love nicknames. And when I played football, like coaches would always give us nicknames that weren't necessarily quicker. It was more to make fun of us, like as in a playful way. And that's what I ended up doing with like my players when I played football. And that's kind of what you do a lot of the times. Like, I feel like a lot of times nicknames, it's not necessarily has to be super clever. Like every coach would just call the quarterbacks cupcake because quarterbacks are always overprotected, and that's just what you do. Like that, every quarterback is cupcake.
Nice.
Okay? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what we do. And like there's one kid that like he got an interception, he ran like 1,000,000 yards and gained like 5 yards, so we just called him 102 because he ran 102 yards and gained nothing. Like that, it's not super clever. It's just an inside joke. So I don't mind fisticuffs. I like nicknames in general, and to me, it is actually kind of clever because like her whole point is like all you do is punch people, so like you're kind of dumb. Like it's making fun of her. I think doing nicknames don't have to be clever if the intention is to be slightly demeaning or making fun of people, and I think that's what Robin was doing with Yang. So I actually liked it personally, but I get your point. That's my kind of side of it.
It's kind of an interesting character quirk, but it is kind of I don't know.
I feel like they're just trying
From her, like I don't know. She's got the same problem as Holdo from The Last Jedi, where it's I can understand why she's here. I understand why she's like, deemed necessary. The problem is she should be a lot more likable than she actually is, and that makes the whole nicknaming thing just kind of annoying where it should be where it could make her more endearing, but instead it just makes her kind of annoying. So
I get what you're saying because she should be more likable right now. Like I don't like I said, understand her motivations. I disagree with her, and yeah, she's kind of a criminal, but you get
and she's kind of an idiot.
Yeah, you get why she's doing what she's doing, but there's nothing about her that I care about right now. Like I have no reason to give a shit about her. I have reason to give a shit about the character. I don't have a reason to give a shit about her right now. It's kind of the problem.
Yeah.
So so lie detector. So now Robin knows about Amity, and big question mark on how she's gonna handle that
and it's probably
I think there's a question.
They're probably also got that fear of how
that revelation will make Robin have a quote unquote big think. Because like you could tell, like just with that revelation alone to Robin, it's like she's like as she's slinking away into the shadows, she's like reevaluating like all of her choices. It's like, why does he want to turn it into a big communication? Because even she like realizes that's not a bad idea. Like
it kind of baffles me why it's like it kind of baffles me that she's stupid enough to be like that doesn't make any sense. Like motherfucker, that's like the one thing about this entire situation that does make sense.
Yeah.
Reestablish
Yeah.
global communications in
Yeah,
order
it's like,
to
if you think that doesn't make sense, wait till you hear what else what other information they have.
Yeah.
You
I
thought this was a revelation? Just wait until I tell you this shit. It'll blow your
Yeah.
fucking
I
mind.
am also wondering.
Which again, it's like, does Robin not know about the fall of Beacon?
It's
Yeah, I guess
it's
she's
like Blake's
kind of
literally
oblivious.
like, I'm the red pill merchant. You better have a lot of fucking water for these horse pills. You're lucky they're not
Yeah.
a suppository.
Yeah, exactly. I am curious to see like, I don't know, if it comes up with like Blake and Yang, like how much do we trust her with? Do we trust her with information that we haven't been trusting Ironwood with? Like, I think that could be a really interesting source of conflict and discussion where they're all like, maybe we should tell her, about Salem and the fact that she can't be killed and stuff like that. And they're like, no, we can't do that. We haven't even told Ironwood that. Do we trust? Or just that question of like, do we trust this woman more than we trust Ironwood? Which, again, if Robin keeps being an idiot and stuff like that, the question might be, no, you shouldn't, but you will anyway. But I do think that could potentially bring up some interesting points there if they decide to go down that route. Like I said, I think this could be heading toward the rift with the characters and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see where it goes. Yeah.
Well, and the other
so-
well, here's the other big thing too is like, I think we kind of missed this. This will lead into like inside Team RWBY. This is gonna create a rift beside Team RWBY potentially, where it's like, like Yang and Blake have started spilling the beans at the movie theater, while like, and so this is another circle. This is another square they're gonna have to circle pretty much.
Although
So-
I do
like I said, Yang and Blake like
that
joining. It could end.
They didn't tell her everything though. They just told her that he's building a communications tower, and that the people responsible for this, who, I don't know, might be the same people responsible for breaking the. Again, does Robin just not know about the fall of Beacon? How did Gira on fucking Australia ass menagerie know more about the fall of Beacon than this so-called hometown hero of one of the biggest cities in the world?
Yeah,
Like,
did she that's a fair
know
question.
what happened at all? Did she not know that like the previous communication tower was destroyed by a dragon?
Yeah.
That just happens all the time, though. I'm not gonna just blame Robin for that, but yeah, it is kind of they still have not figured out to like get the characters to realize things that have fucking happened that everybody should know about. I think their logic is they're trying to say like the communication. What's the thing from Star Wars Episode 1?
Disruption in communication can only mean one thing.
No,
invasion.
he says after that, like, negotiation. We've lost all communication. Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
that
Like,
one.
where are the Chancellor's ambassadors?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think maybe what it is like, maybe she's wondering why does this, why are we building this, why are we like, why do we need a mobile, communication tower in the sky, and why does this take priority over, the security of this, of this city, basically. But yeah, no, it's weirdly worded that she's like, this doesn't make sense. It's like, why not?
Yeah. I mean,
Don't just leave it at
even
that.
ignoring the fall of Beacon and all that shit and all the stuff Robin should know about, basic geography from being a huntress. Atlas has a military base on Argus, which is on another continent.
Yeah.
Do you think
But
that
media, Argus is
not...
rightfully Atlesian clay. They lost it during they got it during the war.
Oh, Robin is just so
Remember,
fucking
all
retarded.
nations' powers are based on how much clay they own and
So-
control.
Like I said,
So-
she's a real, like I keep saying, she's a really good ally for Hillary Clinton in all the wrong ways, or
Yeah.
in all the unintentional ways, which, I don't know, if the allegory continues, odds are no matter how much evidence they provide with her isn't going to be enough to convince her, but yeah.
Yeah. So
You know.
in between the Yang and Blake moments, because there are actually two scenes. It is split in half. We get this scene with Ruby, Weiss, Pietro, and Penny, which I found very interesting.
Yep.
Now, we basically find Maria's there as well. You know, nice to see her again. You know, we get the confirmation.
Is it the implication, like, between Miria and Pietro that they're, like, on again, off again, like lovers? Because that's kind of what it feels like.
I like to believe that, yes.
If that's the case, I don't mind it at all.
He's her summer fling. Every time she goes to Mantle, she hits him up, gets her eyes fixed, and they have some fun.
Can I point out something else I really like about this episode, this whole volume right now, though, that I forgot, that I really wanted from this volume and that we're getting?
Mm-hmm.
Focus on the actual, like, main characters, and they are kind of pushing Crow out to the side, and they have pushed Maria completely out to the side. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. We are focusing on the... we have Ironwood, but obviously Ironwood has to be part of this. But we're focusing on the students, and Crow's not going with them everywhere. It's mostly them. And even when Crow did go with them, he went with Clover. And he's not interrupting the kids the whole time. It's great. This is exactly the shit I said I wanted. Either kill him or move him to the side, move Maria to the side. It's exactly what they've done. It's great. And it's really helped. Like, we're getting a lot of shit going on with our actual characters that we give a fuck about.
Yeah, Maria is basically just there to be like, why can't it be like in the good old days when we can just lynch them?
We just fucking killed them.
But dude, she's like Hispanic.
Finish. Coop would be able to.
She's like Hispanic though. I don't know if she could be
Spanish Inquisition. Spanish Inquisition. That's all I'm saying.
I said Hispanic, dude. She looks too dark to be actually Spanish. Okay.
Yeah, that's like so
the Mexican Inquisition. Nobody ever expects that.
Well.
Ultimate.
She's literally just there to be like computers.
She is just there to be an old white lady.
Even though she's hooked up to one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably why she's so pissed at them, because her eyes keep breaking every 10 years.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And then Pietro's like, Pietro's like, man, I get to plunder this lady's ass like every 10 years, guaranteed. It's great.
Maybe I'll make sure this pair shuts down in 9.
I was gonna say, if that was his plan, 10 years is like, why didn't he make them break down more?
I'd say like at least like once a year.
Yeah,
that would be too obvious. That would be too obvious.
Okay, fine. Then 3 years. If that's his plan, why isn't it 3 years instead of 10, dude?
Oh man. Well,
what is this? What is this? Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's the fucking truth right there. Oh. Wait, was it? No, I'm trying to. Okay, so.
Yeah, we cannot set foot on land but once every 10 years.
Wait, wasn't it that fourth Pirates of the Caribbean movie? Okay, I don't even want to think of the Pirates of the Caribbean.
He supposedly breaks the curse in the 10th in at the end of the 4th movie because he actually like did the job. So then he got to go stay with his wife and kid.
It's the 5th movie. The 4th one was the one.
Whatever.
That, like,
I forget. That's the one. That's the one with the mermaid and the priest. That's the one with the mermaid and the priest, right? Which is like all anybody can talk about with that one.
Well, Ian McShane made a pretty good Blackbeard in it.
Yes, he did, but like nobody cares about that because that weird mermaid and priest.
Nobody cared. Nobody. I mean, that's not special because I'm pretty sure they didn't even give Ian McShane a script. They just like dress him up. No, they literally just went to his fucking house one day and he was already dressed as a pirate.
You're just like, perfect. Help us out with this.
Ian McShane is a treasure, by the way.
Oh, he's great. I love it.
But so we get the revelation that basically Pietro like gives a fraction of his Aura to Penny to revive
Yeah.
her, essentially. So that's so there is a cost to Penny's revivals.
Yeah, and it's
See,
and
So
there's
she
a
does
reason why
not
she's
have
the only one.
instant. Yeah,
See-
so she does not have infinite respawns, which is good.
That's an
Yeah.
explanation that is nice to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Now
something
I would have
that's worth
still
explaining.
preferred the Pietro had a daughter and then transferred her soul into Penny. I would still prefer that, but this is nice.
Yeah, it's still something that's
still
gonna matter.
intimate, it's
That's
still
important.
like she's
It
it's
also
still intimate. It's still that she's a part of him, essentially.
Doesn't
but,
that
yeah.
kind of like work
also-
into the lore of Pinocchio? Of like, didn't like Pinocchio's like craftsman like impart like a little bit of himself into Pinocchio?
I
Right?
mean that was like the
don't know.
metaphor, but that was Blue Fairy that actually brought her to life.
I
or
mean,
brought
well,
him to
if
life.
you think about it too, from like
Okay.
in the stance of like bearing an offspring, it's like it's like you're giving up
Yeah.
like a chunk of yourself to create
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the metaphor here that I like is that this is very much a metaphor for
Yeah.
childhood. It's he's sacrificing a part of his soul in
Yeah.
order to raise this girl, literally raise her
Yeah.
from the dead at one point, and
Mhm.
or comatose, whatever.
Yeah,
you
so
wanna
it's
call
still
it.
And the implication
yeah,
is
so
this
it's
isn't
still
the
yeah,
first
but
time
also-
it's
very
happened.
intimate. It's
But it
still
also-
very
also
much a
has-
father-daughter relationship, and it's still really sweet. But
And it also taps into the transhumanism themes that are just inherent when you have androids.
yeah,
It like I feel like the implication to like the long term implication is gonna be like, okay, well, it's like this is the last time I can do it. So it's like fuck it. It's like just take everything at this point. It's like this is my
Yeah.
inheritance to you, Penny. It's
Yeah,
like
Pietro
I'm sorry
might be-
I won't I'm sorry that I won't be around, but I did this so you could be around.
It makes me really want a scene with them two alone.
yeah,
Like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious if
Yeah,
like
no.
does Penny know that that's the case, that like
Yeah.
every time she dies, like
Yeah.
Pietro has to basically cut off a part of himself to give
Yeah.
it to her. Like that
Yeah.
could be the implication too, also of like why he's wheelchair bound. Like he could have walked before, but like he did it the first time. He's like, oh shit, my legs don't work.
well, we see,
let
see
me-
a picture.
let me
What I'm
look.
assuming is a picture of him before he ever created Penny.
But he
didn't
was sitting
do
in that
so.
picture though.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
just
so I'm
that looks like
assuming
just a
he-
regular chair.
Also,
so maybe not.
one minor complaint is why I was so annoyed that he put his finger on top of Watts' face when we knew it was going to be Watts the entire time, and then
Yeah,
they
that
I
was
even
kind of a
agree,
goofy reveal,
but
eh.
it didn't last long enough for it to be stupid.
yes,
Yeah.
I agree. I would have been
Yeah.
annoyed
And
if
it
they
didn't last.
if-
Yeah, it didn't last more than one episode. It was
yes,
just like
exactly.
So-
If
so-
he
it
wanted
felt-
us to be focused on, okay, this is a young piano, like
It's-
the people
it's-
that he met, and then after that is like also Watt was there too.
So-
Like,
so
he
it
wanted
felt-
us
it
to
it's
be
felt-
not
focused.
it's
felt
not like
more
Frozen
like-
2 where they see the dam at the beginning of the movie and they don't think that you already realize that the whole point of the movie is that they're going to have to destroy the dam, and then they reveal that they have to destroy the dam and they expect you to think it's a twist and then it's not, and the movie was boring as shit. Yeah, I watched Frozen 2. It was terrible. I didn't hate
So-
Frozen, but yeah, I like that they didn't. Sorry,
Dang.
that's just a little mini rant. And I was arguing about it with my students today.
Yeah.
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 And I didn't hate Frozen 1, by the way, just for the record.
no,
It's not like
I
I'm not a Frozen hater. And the music was terrible in this one. That was the biggest disappointment. Was the music was nothing.
Mhm.
I did not like. I like that it didn't, that he took his finger off at the end of the scene, not like later in the
Yeah.
like I thought it was gonna be like some dumb plot point later in like the. I'm so glad they didn't do that at least. Oh,
Yeah,
I don't.
it felt more like the in volume 3 they did that with Raven.
Oh
where
yeah.
They have like except it was a little bit reversed because in that scene in volume 3, like he pulls out the picture, we see it, and then he covers her face because like, oh yeah, triggering memories. So here's like he just doesn't want to look at Watts' face because betrayal or whatever, maybe he knows Watts was evil and got arrested or disgraced or whatever. So he's like, nah, I'm not even gonna like really remind myself of him. And the thing is, I get it. And again, like it doesn't last long enough for it to be stupid. And here's why. because when he's describing that, he's not talking about Watts. He's talking about Penny. And
Yeah.
covering Watts up lets all that emotion sink in, and then he reveals it in the back of our mind, because we're actually paying attention to the picture instead of it's gonna be Watts. But that's just because we're not as into it as murder birds will be.
Yeah, and
Or
then
was.
even if Ruby saw Watts on that picture, she doesn't know who the fuck she is.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the only
That's a
person
good-
who would know who Watts is Raven.
Maybe Weiss.
Is
Yeah,
Raven.
maybe Weiss.
Yeah, maybe Weiss at the most. And then because that's basically the whole scene. And then the scene after that is oh hey, Jock is inviting Ironwood to tea time, and we're gonna have a
Yeah.
fucking red wedding scene. Essentially,
That's a good point. That's actually
Well,
a good point, media, because Murder, somebody like Murder would not notice, and I don't mean that in an insulting way, because he just gets so into the moment when he watches.
Yeah.
He's not gonna see that. He might not. He might notice it, but I get what you're saying. Somebody like him who's very in exactly what the moment is. It'll be a little bit more of a reveal, so he can enjoy that moment of the focus on Penny.
Yeah, it gives the Penny backstory room to breathe before you're before it's supposed to really click in your head that oh, that's Watts in the picture. And so even for people like us and Team Frostbite, everyone who is actually kind of thinking about the visuals rather than the dialogue, who are oh, that's obviously gonna be Watts. That's still just in the back of our mind. It's not distracting us from the fact that this is actually a very intimate moment about him talking about Penny's creation.
Yeah, no, it is. It is an intimate moment, and he's sharing it with Penny and... Oh, when I say Penny, he's sharing it with
Ruby and Weiss.
Ruby, Weiss, and then even to, Maria.
Yeah.
But, I consider, I'll just say that, Maria and Pietro are, essentially a couple, in the grand scheme of things. With the way that those two act on each other, whenever they're both younger, I don't see any reason why those two won't be banging. But... And then it also before we get into the next scene, it's Weiss brings up too, where it's well, it's my dad owns this company, and then that company owns a shell company who owns this that also operates that, and okay, here we go. It's and this all it's we just drew the line here, and so
that's why Watt needed to get into Jacques' good graces to try and get access to not just Mantle's security system, but also Atlas's probably. So
and
really nice time.
And especially with Watts, it's Watts just needs a fucking fingernail hole to destroy a system. So once he got that, then he's good to go. So and I'll kind of bring up Secure's point, which I don't know if you were there to hear Secure's rant about that though, but I do agree with him to a degree. No, I actually do agree with him where I don't think it would have been a bad idea for this volume to have Watts' involvement to be a reveal that happens in the next few episodes. I kind of even if Tyrion was acting on his own, or what we thought was his own, would have been fine. But I don't know. I agree with him to a degree where it's it kind of deflates a little bit from the volume, but whatever.
No, because
maybe if he hadn't been introduced all the way back volume 4.
Yeah, the only way for that to work at all is if we had never heard the name Watts before the reveal.
Yeah.
And if we did, and if that did happen, then it still wouldn't work really, because then it's just he's getting tacked on last minute. We've known Watts since the very beginning of Volume 4. He's one of the first I think he is the first new character we get introduced to in Volume 4. Him or Tyrion.
I think it's him. Yeah.
And then Hazel was also in that scene. We find out that he's Hacker Man at the very beginning of Volume. Well, we find out that he's, talking with people and building these connections at the very end of Volume 4 when he's with Lionheart. Then we find out he's Hacker Man at the very beginning of Volume 5. And then we find out that he's an Elysian scientist when he joins Cinder to talk with Raven.
Yeah. And even at the beginning of Volume 4, we see him typing away at his scroll. So even then, people were speculating, oh, this guy's probably the tech genius. This guy's probably the one who gave them the Black Queen virus, basically.
Are we just saying, like, backhanded, like, with like, underwater backgammon that, like, Watts has, like, really good, like, breadcrumb backstory and, like, hints? Is that what we're saying? Because that's
he was one of the few things that I actually liked in Volume 5.
Yeah, he's been he's been built up. So maybe if they had wanted to like keep his entire existence a secret until this volume, maybe they could have pulled off the whole hiding his involvement thing. But they threw that out the window as soon as they introduced him in Volume 4, essentially. Also, the show's never really never really bothered to keep the villains and their activities particularly close to the chest. We met Cinder in the very first episode. She shows herself. We get her name at the end of Volume 1. Like we get hints of what's going on and what she's doing from pretty much the beginning. So Watt showing up, it's not really anything new. It would be more of a deviation from style, and it wouldn't work out if they were to try and keep his involvement a secret in this volume.
Not only that, but in something last episode that I talked about, it created an expectation. Like when he went to Jacques, it created an expectation, and that expectation is what made last episode so intense. Like saying because it created the expectation like, oh yeah, Jacques gonna win. But then Robin was winning and she kept winning, and the numbers just got closer and closer and closer. And then they get further and then closer and closer until finally Jacques actually won at the last minute. Yeah. Watts was actually very clever about the way he did that.
Although having him gain 6 points was weird, but
it made that whole sequence like really intense as it's revving up, and in the back of your head that something's gonna go wrong, and then shit goes way further south than you even expected it to because of Tyrion, and it's still going south with the edits and stuff, which I do have. We already talked about the issues with that, with like the lighting and the choreography. But Watts has stolen the show this volume so far. Him and Ironwood both have stolen every single scene that they've been involved in, and I would not trade that in just for a bullshit last minute reveal of a villain.
Yeah. Especially because we got Chris Sabat, and he's one of the
especially
few big name voices actually.
Especially since I've liked him in the previous volumes. Like I said, going back to Volume 5 with the Raven scene, that scene was fucking abysmal. One of the worst scenes in the entire show. It was the worst episode, in my opinion, worst episode of Volume 5 was episode 9, which was the scene where which was the episode that had that scene. But Watts was like the voice of reason. He's the one who grabbed Cinder by the wrist and was like, "Listen here, you little cunt. This shit's gonna go south, and it's gonna be your fault. And I'm gonna make sure Salem knows that you're the one who fucked over our plans because of a grudge match with a teenager."
Yeah. I like that we've seen Watt, and we know, we the audience know what's going on. You don't always have to keep secrets from your audience. You can. You can let your audience know things that your characters don't know. It creates nice dramatic irony, and there's still plenty of secrets going on. We so far it kind of seems like this is the election tampering and everything that happened after it was basically just phase 1 of what is looking to be a much bigger plan. And for all we know, all he really cared about, the Grim attack was honestly at this point it's looking like the Grim attack was basically just like I don't know, kind of a pleasant like bonus basically to what Watt really wanted, which is get in good with Jacques, get his access to this other stuff, and who knows where it's going from there. So far, yeah, Watt's plan has
And
been
that's
pretty
the other
interesting.
thing too, is like Watts doesn't necessarily really need Jock as much anymore now. Also, like Jock is.
Well, we'll see.
There
We'll
is
see.
something.
Well, yeah,
there is
well-
something in the same exact scene where, Pietro mentions again for Watts mentioned it for the audience. Pietro mentions it for Ruby and Weiss that Atlas is running on an updated security network compared to Mantle.
Yeah.
And the only ones who have access to it are, a couple of maintenance crews, Pietro himself, Ironwood, and the council members.
So here, okay,
That
so
could also be
So
it.
Jacques is Watts' way inside Atlas's actual updated security network.
because like
And
going
oh
off of,
boy, am I looking forward to him fucking that up. the
going
same
off of
way
that
he has everything.
implication, well, so I don't. Did we skip over the Oscar and Ironwood scene, or was that the
That's
next scene?
that's the last scene in the episode.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we should
Yeah.
probably get into that. I actually do like Oscar in this scene. Like Oscar's great between the two
I
of them.
feel so weird because I kind of liked Oscar this whole volume. It's really weird. Why is it that I like Blake and Oscar now? Why are they good? I mean, this is great. I'm not complaining. I'm happy. See, I don't have to complain about them anymore. Isn't it? For those listening, isn't it great to not have to hear me complain about Oscar every episode and not want him dead? Isn't that nice? I like not having to do that.
I feel like they're just utilizing Oscar better though, because Oscar is kind
Yeah,
of
they
like,
are.
like Oscar is like a weird Nora
Not
in
in
this
every
sense.
single episode anymore.
Oh yeah, he's not in every episode.
Like
the
this
big
is only
one.
like what the third episode he's even been in.
Yeah.
and had
Yes,
speaking
that's part
lines.
of
in
what
it.
I-
Fourth if you count his cameo in episode 3.
He's there when we need him, and he's not there anymore. Then we need to see him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what. So here's, I don't know, my take on this. First, I still stand by what I've said. What I've been saying for a long time now, which is Jean should have been the one to get Ozpin into his head. This scene, I think, should have, like, the fact that Jean's absent from this episode and the fact that Oscar's been absent from other episodes has me feeling like kind of has me even more convinced of it. Like Oscar's, only there basically to drop like information, which I feel like Jean could do just as well in his shoes. But and I do agree that this is a very good scene for Oscar here because we do have him. Yeah, we see that he's kind of learned from it does feel like he's actually learned from Ozpin's mistakes when he says, believing that you're the only one with the answers, that you can do whatever you want, believing that doing whatever you want without any, attempts at repercussions. Like, I think that is very much him learning from what Ozpin did. I don't know. A lot of it also does just feel like, again, even though Ozpin's in the back of his head, Ozpin's still melding into him. Basically, Ironwood says, eventually you won't be able to tell who's who and stuff like that, which is still a thing going on there. So I
love Oscar's reaction to that, by the way, too.
Yeah, Oscar just like he
Yeah.
visibly shudders for a second. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I do think that this is a good scene for Oscar. I still don't think he's necessary, but it's still good. So
I mean,
Well,
if we're
we
gonna
also
have
get-
him, this is utilizing him well. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
we also get the most important plot point that gets brought up for like long term, like Atlesian arc wise, is the staff of creation is what's keeping the fucking Atlas afloat. Is the big one,
Yep.
which the added security and like them trying to influence who the Winter Maiden ship goes to makes a whole lot more sense now because of it.
yeah.
Especially if like Winter like being like, oh yeah, I volunteer to become said Winter Maiden.
Yeah.
So
I am a part of me is kind of wondering like what made that, like, I don't know. What made Ironwood hear floating city and think it was I don't know. connected to like a single power force and think it was a good idea. But I don't know, maybe it was just like they thought, oh well, added security to from the Grim or something like that. But no, that's definitely a Chekhov's gun type of thing. Like, Atlas is definitely down.
When Chekhov's gun is a fucking floating city.
Yeah.
But,
I am looking forward to that tumbling down. Now,
okay, wait, I got a
what
question.
I think is going on is I don't think the relic of creation, the spirit of creation or whatever, is gonna automatically make Atlas fall because it's supposedly in like another dimension as it is. So I think when it gets used for something, like, I don't think it just pulled Atlas out of the ground. I think it actually just basically materialized it. Like, it actually created a floating city. So when it creates something else, that floating city is going to turn into rubble. And everything that was built on it is going to fall onto mantle.
And then if you think about the OP, it makes a whole lot more sense because they have that whole panning shot of them upon like a burning like pile of a city in chunks of the OP. So like this OP, like as we've said, like every episode is like super theme heavy for this volume.
So someone made a joke about like if only it was like the sword of creation, we can make a sword of Damocles reference.
Hey. Yeah. So something else I was kind of wondering about with this, Ironwood talks about how, he like, basically he's terrified of Salem, essentially, he worries about her, wonders if maybe, the solution isn't making the same kind of cold-hearted decisions that she does, abandoning like morals and humanity and stuff like that. And one thing I wonder about is that he mentions Lionheart. He says, I'm not going to be like Lionheart. I'm currently wondering, is he talking about like, because the last time Lionheart was mentioned, Crow was writing Ironwood a letter and saying, that Lionheart died a hero, that he died protecting his academy. So I'm wondering if...
Well, no, they told him. Like, they told him in the letter, Crow's like, there's things I need to tell you that I can't, risk writing in a letter. And that thing was Lionheart betrayed them. So they told him off screen. And that's why Ironwood brings up, like, I'm not going to betray you guys like Leo did.
I guess I didn't. I thought he was talking about like, I'm not going to.
No, he's talking about betrayal.
Okay, fair enough. So that's something I was wondering.
So I like that. See, Ironwood and Ozpin kind of had this weird dynamic in Volume 2, especially where Ironwood was always kind of like gung ho. Send in the flag bearers, send in the gunships to Mountain Glen, just bomb the ever-loving hell out of the White Fang and be done with it. Whereas Osman's like, no, just let things happen. Just let them infiltrate the academies and hack our systems and destroy our CCT network. And so Ironwood is actually kind of like finding a bit of a balance with those two, surprisingly enough, where like he knows his ships, his guns and ships and robots aren't going to stop Salem. But he's having that plus having like the secrets and trying to keep things close to the chest the way Ozpin did. And Oscar points that out.
But only so far as he needs to. But
like Oscar says, like, I can't say what Ozpin would say, but I can say what I think, which is that the whole idea of like having all the answers and being the one who holds all the answers and picks who knows what is not a good place to be.
Mm-hmm.
And Ironwood kind of like brushes it off because in his mind, it doesn't matter what Mantle thinks. It doesn't matter what Atlas thinks. He is perfectly willing to go down as the worst man to ever run Atlas Academy so long as he gets that network up.
Yeah, as long as the network goes up and he's able to like get that truth out, it doesn't matter.
He's going full John Adams.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Full John Adams. My reference for that is when he avoided the war with the French.
Yes.
and everybody fucking hated him for it, and he's still not really known as a great president, but that alone should.
Was he like
bump
number
him up.
2 or number 3?
He was
number
president too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah,
and I do-
Hamilton really screwed him over.
Yeah.
Yeah, really buried him. Yeah, and I do like
Hamilton
how
also screwed Hamilton over.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
media
I mean,
is
that
like
was all
media
around
is
the
about
same
to be
time
like,
too.
I mean, Hamilton was trying to like make him, I don't know, make Hamilton feel human.
No,
but,
the thing that Hamilton, we're talking about the guide. We're not even making reference to the musical.
Oh.
Hamilton, some wider historical context to what dude was talking about. Hamilton was one of the leading members of the Federalist Party, which was the same party John Adams was in. Right. Hamilton wanted that war with France. He was a war hawk.
Yep.
And when Adams, refused and took, let peace have a chance and appease the pirates and appease the French, Hamilton called him a weak, spineless coward, and then wrote a bunch of letters in his newspapers that he ran, basically just defaming Adams and calling him every expletive he could think of, which Hamilton had a very, very wide vocabulary, so he had no shortage of words to call him. And it basically tanked Adams' entire presidency, along with a more legit criticism of the Espionage and Sedition Act, which did not help things. But that's basically why John Adams became the very first one-term president. And all that was going on around the same time as the Reynolds pamphlet when Hamilton was getting busted for having an affair.
Wasn't Andrew Jackson like coming into play too at this point in time?
Because Tennessee was looking for statehood and Andrew Jackson was representing Tennessee.
Yeah.
God, was Andrew Jackson said he should have killed, was it Hamilton or
no, Henry Clay.
Okay.
Jackson's political career didn't really start until long after Hamilton was dead.
Yeah, because the only thing with Andrew Jackson is like Andrew Jackson didn't prevent the Civil War; he just delayed it. That's like his big claim to fame.
He delayed it by threatening to lynch his own vice president. And his on his deathbed, he said that like the only two regrets he has is that he didn't shoot Henry Clay and he didn't lynch John Calhoun.
Wow. Yeah.
And don't forget Andrew Jackson, fuck the banks and fuck the Indians.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
What a base.
I would love to do a historical podcast with you, dude, one of these days.
Oh my god, that'd be fun. I'm so down.
Well, I mean, election. We could do one on like election night this
I'm
next
gonna
year.
be too hammered during election to.
I'm down.
To have
all right,
podcast.
but let's finish off this RWBY podcast first. But I'm definitely down. But let's finish the RWBY podcast.
Yeah.
So the next scene is Winter being like, "Hey, we're being invited to the Red Wedding," and that's basically it.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Something's definitely gonna go down at the party that Jacques is holding. Yeah.
Are we going to get to see the entire RWBY cast in like nice feminine dresses?
I mean, we have before,
maybe.
I swear to God, if Yang wears a suit. Oh man.
No, if anyone
I'm just wondering if
the Black Sun shippers will for weeks.
I swear, dude, if they do that, then that's gonna be like the Black Sun shippers are gonna be like hyper autistic. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, ship confirmed." Yeah. Why would Blake and or Yang wear a suit whenever the other one is wearing a dress?
Yeah,
they would all the way through. That would ruin Black Sun shippers' Christmas.
God, yeah, no, like boy.
I want to know who all is invited because I suspect Team RWBY is invited because Jacques wants to show off to Weiss.
I feel whatever, it's more like,
look who has the big dick energy now. You don't need your Iron Daddy. I'm your daddy again. But I don't see what purpose inviting Oscar or Team Juniper would serve.
I feel like
maybe Jean gets to replenish his
thirsty milk.
That might thirsty bobs. That might actually be really bad.
John impregnates Willow.
The situation. It's like,
As-
still mourning my last harem.
Oh no, media's glitching out on my screen right now. It's terrible.
As long as Red and Nora talk, they don't have to be at the party. Just
Yeah.
talk to each
Media,
other.
kill your
I don't know.
webcam and
I
fire
think-
it up again.
Yeah, I don't know. I want John to be there just because we missed him this episode.
Well, no, he doesn't have to be there. They could have a B plot. I think with like,
I
it might
feel
even-
like this episode is a good chance for them to have a B plot, like unironically.
I would like the B plot to be Jean helping Ren and Nora with their bullshit. Actually,
Maybe.
because then Jean could. It works not just for
That
my
or
Nora
them
wants,
hunting down-
because it would make Jean, it would have Jean actually have to be a team leader and like help his fucking teammates out with shit.
Yeah.
Well,
would
if
be
you
nice.
think about
That
it too,
or
They'd-
them
they'd be
trying,
doing something else, I'm
searching for
assuming.
well, if you
yeah,
think,
searching for Tyrion.
My assumption is they'd be doing something else while that happened.
if
So,
you
could
think
be
about
searching
it
for
too, if Ironwood is expecting an ambush, he could simply just bring Winter, Weiss, and Ruby with them, and maybe Oscar, or like the plus ones that he's gonna bring, and that's all they would need for that whole scene between like the 5 of them, all sitting down. Because like if
Maybe
Weiss
Yang or
goes,
Robin
Ruby
again or
will
something.
Ruby will go no matter what, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I feel, and then the other thing too is like if Winter goes, Weiss is like, I'm going with you because I don't trust you being in the Serpent's Den. And then there's also the potential too where if they decide to like redeem Whitley, like Whitley could be like, hey Weiss, a strange man came into our house. He has a really good looking mustache, that's all I can say. Is his defining feature. And he kind of has like a pimp coat, and he looks like an anime
Some guy called
protagonist.
Watt or Arthur, and
Yeah, some dude named Arthur. Or hell, even the butler could be like, yeah, there's some fucking sketch ass dude
Klein's a
here.
thing.
And I would know a sketch ass dude because I have split personality disorder.
Yeah. Do you think we're gonna meet Weiss's mom?
Oh, if they're gonna
Do we
they're
care?
gonna unzip Weiss's mom, this is the chance to do it.
Again, this is one of those things where like, do we really need it? If they've got
I
a
don't
really
think we
good
do.
story behind it, like it really makes a difference, then fine. But I don't. Again, I'm gonna say probably don't need it.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree with you,
I mean,
dude.
I
Like,
think
I
we
don't think we need it.
kind of. I think we need it just because she's alive, she's there.
She's kind of a Chekhov's
It's-
gun that
it's
needs to
obviously-
go off.
It's obviously something that Weiss cares about. Otherwise, Jacques wouldn't have tried using.
Yeah,
her
they
to
mentioned
trip
her
her.
earlier. So, yeah, Weiss's mom is a Chekhov's gun that needs to go.
Yeah.
If nothing
No,
else.
no. Like if Weiss's mom was dead or whatever, I'd be like, yeah, we don't need to see backstory with that or anything. But
Yeah.
she's alive. You know, she's
Yeah.
still doing stuff
Still
supposedly.
kicking. Yeah, still
So,
getting wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasting away again.
Sounds like a good time to me.
Yeah,
Tea, high
I
functioning
think
alcoholic.
I think we're also done with this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions, or did we already? Answer
Yes.
them?
I mean, we got a lot from one person. But I'm pretty sure we answered a lot of them. All right, so these questions come from Let's Watch. What are the chances Oscar tells Ironwood about Salem, the relic, and what happened to Ozpin? I
I don't think it's gonna be.
I don't
Oscar.
think he's gonna put himself in a position where he's the one who tells him.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
a
that's
Ruby
ultimately
thing.
Ruby's call. I think that's
I think
ultimately
Ironwood's
Ruby's
gonna find out accidentally. Yeah. Yeah. Then
Let's watch. Don't you find it annoying that Yang and Blake are now keeping stuff from the others? Twice for Yang because she still hasn't said Raven is the Spring Maiden. Okay, first of all, no, she's not keeping stuff from others. She's doing exactly the opposite. We don't know what she's told them. Like,
Yeah.
they know that Vernal is dead, so someone is the Spring Maiden now, and like, there's absolutely no reason to believe that Yang hasn't said that Raven was the Spring Maiden. There's
Yeah.
no reason to think that.
And it doesn't
And-
matter simply because the relic is out in the fucking wild. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
the-
and as far as like keeping stuff from the others, she literally in this episode just told Robin about Amity Coliseum, and then that's the only other scene she's in. She hasn't even had a chance to catch up with Ruby and be like, "Hey, by the way, we ran into Robin, and I kind of let it slip that we're building Amity."
Oops.
I think she might keep it from Ruby, but it would not annoy me if it did. I think make it things even more exciting and like interesting. And again, like like I said, I'm thinking and kind of hoping for, not because I don't like and want them to suffer, but because I understand how important conflict is. I'm still kind of hoping for a rift to form by the end of this volume. But I also, and I'm just going to point this out in regards to Raven's Yang, whether or not Yang told people that Raven is the Spring Maiden, and I think this also applies to whether or not Weiss told people about about Winter and the Winter Maiden. Is that so one of the things that this volume has been really good about doing is reminding us of how Ruby lied to Ironwood. They've brought that up like at least every other episode. They have not done that with Raven. They have not done that with Weiss and the Winter Maiden. So either those just aren't important things that they felt like needed to be brought up, or they already talked about it off screen. So I do not think those are going to be maybe major plot points. Maybe not with the Winter Maiden, but definitely not with Raven.
Yeah, stuff like that is where I think RWBY would really benefit from the anime cliche of internal monologues, because we just don't know who knows what at this point, because they do a lot of that stuff off screen.
Well, the thing is too is like the fifth dimensional underwater backgammon battleship game is only getting more and more complex as like people are like spilling the beans to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So, third question: what are the chances they skip the conversation with Jacques? We already have the thumbnail for the new episode. So somewhere between 0 and 0.0001%, because the thumbnail is literally like Jacques sitting at a dinner table. And also people sitting around and talking, much less people sitting around and talking at a table, much easier to animate than an action sequence.
Are we gonna have a cafe scene?
Oh,
my favorite.
Yes, that's my prediction.
And I haven't predicted them skipping that scene yet, so it's not gonna happen.
God damn it.
So fourth question: why did they skip the riots? We already talked about the budget and time constraints. 5: why are so many people keeping secrets? Because that's the main theme of the volume. 6: Jacques said he wanted to talk to Ironwood about his seat on the council. Does that mean both seats or just one? We don't really know how that works.
I think what it is Iron is like, despite everything that went on with Tyrion, people are kind of raising eyebrows about, well, like, wait a minute, you were very clearly losing. How did you get how did you pull ahead by 6% in a matter of seconds? And so he's going to be saying that, which again, his answer could very easily just be because I campaigned in Menagerie and Atlas, or in Mantle and Atlas, not just Mantle, like Hill did, or like something like that. Like he's just like, I don't know. They're gonna fit in a little impeachment plot line there, and he's just gonna be like, yeah, whatever. A little Marussia plot line, which is going to be completely inaccurate because in this case he actually is colluding with Watt. But yeah.
And I think, hold on, let me get back to that. I was trying to find the other question we had. Because I think the other questions we answered, we already talked about like the whole night vision thing, and we already talked about Amity, or not Amity, but do you think the whole Staff of Creation thing and Atlas Falling is going to be in this volume or volume 8? I think it's going to be in volume 8 or volume 9.
That's volume 8 or volume 9 foreshadowing right there. That's the heaviest foreshadowing we've gotten in this entire, like, in the history of RWBY with the Staff of Creation.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Rooster
probably
Teeth
not
walked
in
up
this
with us with a steel bat and fucking cracked her skull open with that.
Wait, what's the foreshadowing? Sorry,
Staff of Creation and Atlas Falling.
Oh yeah, I know. Atlas will literally fall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's like they took a fucking metal bat and split our skull open with it. That's like the heaviest foreshadowing they've ever done in this entire fucking series.
Yeah.
And that's
y'all
fun.
can-
I
It's
don't-
Chekhov's
y'all
and
can at
Chekhov's
me at
guns.
that.
Yeah, I don't even mind.
That's Chekhov's nuke, not Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, yeah, right. All right, is that it?
So and then Ramikas asked, how does he expect to protect it and protect? Let me actually read the full question. My issue with Ironwood is the same as in episode 2. If he can't protect Atlas and Mantle from the Grim, now how does he expect to protect it and the rest of Remnant when the time to spill the news about Salem?
Sorry, can you repeat that? You were skipping out
It's
a bunch.
not that he. So he asked, how can if Ironwood can't protect Mantle now, well, how can he protect it? How does he expect to protect it when he tells everybody and the whole world when he tells everybody about the Grim or like what they're fighting? Salem. Sorry. My thing is, what we see is not that he can't protect Mantle. The problem with Mantle is more that they don't have jobs, they don't have food and supplies. That's what they're losing out on. I don't think they're completely overrun by Grim. Like it happens, but it's not like he's completely letting it go, right? I think the issue is that he's not supplying them well. So I'm not saying that's a great excuse either, because if he has I don't know why it's so hard for him to spare any supplies. Like but that's
Yeah.
fine. It's not really the end of the world. I think that's what the question is.
I think the
Yeah.
problem right now is that Ironwood, or the real problem right now, isn't so much the Grim, it's the fact that he's fighting a war on two fronts right now, essentially. He's
And
dealing with.
and right now he doesn't have Mantle on his side. That's
Yeah.
where the issue with the Grim is
Yeah.
coming from, is the people of Mantle hating Ironwood, causing the Grim attacks.
Yeah.
Get Amity up and running, he could explain what's been going on, he could tell Mantle and everything, and he's hoping that, like, oh, wow, he really did have our, best, intentions and stuff in mind. And
Yeah.
so then it'll create panic because, like, oh my god, there's actually this whole big thing. But once again, how many of these people remember the Fall of Beacon? Raise it, show of
Yeah,
hands.
it doesn't
Who
seem that
remembers the
everyone
Fall of
remembers.
Beacon? Yeah, big shocker, someone was behind that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So like it's
no.
definitely gonna be that bit like a big scare, and I'm pretty sure his plan is tell Mantle and Atlas first, then tell the rest of the world afterwards. Yeah, essentially his plan, but yeah, essentially his hope is, well, yeah, kind of like kind of what has been the plan, like what Salem has been trying to prevent has been admitting to be that she's been trying to prevent since Volume 3. She's trying to prevent people being united against a common enemy. He's going to give them a common enemy, and then also, again, what Ozpin's job has been since he was brought back, unite humanity. So yes, this is going to cause a panic. Probably not going to be as big a panic though as as everybody thinking that Ironwood tried to kill Robin and stuff like that. So yeah, that's probably where that's coming in. And again, he's, like I said, he's fighting wars on two fronts right now. He's dealing with all this rioting and panic and people, being angry and Mantle and not trusting him in Mantle, and also with the Grim on the outside. So yeah, by telling everybody the truth and what's actually going on and explaining himself, that's going to the hope is that will calm things down in Mantle, and then he will only have to worry about the Grim. So
Yeah. So any other thoughts before we wrap this up?
I do also, or one thing I did forget to mention, I like how I've seen some people still think Ozpin's a good guy for some reason, and they still think RWBY is like him for lying to Ironwood. The reality is actually that in this episode, RWBY and Ironwood, there are more parallels to be drawn between RWBY and Ironwood right now than there are between RWBY and Ozpin. Because they are both, they both intend to tell people about what they're telling them. It's just not the right time. It's not, the right place. It's not the right opportunity. They can't tell them yet. And so they're trying to, yeah, and and it's biting them in the ass, and it's probably going to bite Ruby in the ass. It's probably, going to keep biting Ironwood in the ass. It's, a tricky situation, but no, Ruby right now there are more parallels between Ruby and Ironwood than Ruby and Ozpin, and I really enjoy that. Again, like, we've been saying it, Ironwood is the MVP of this episode. He's, trying to do the right thing. He could, he's definitely considering some pretty terrible things, although they're kind of already in martial law, but because they got curfews and other stuff. But no, I'm really liking Ironwood this episode. He's making he's trying really hard to make the right decisions, but also having to make these really difficult decisions during a really indecent time. And it's, it's interesting. I'm curious to see where it goes. Even if it turns into him being an antagonistic force, he's going to be like, it's going to be a really interesting journey to see him go on. And also more Jean next episode, please.
Yeah, that's about it for me.
So if you like this podcast and you want to see more, like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification, because subscribing doesn't really mean anything with the way YouTube is nowadays. And support my Patreon. $10 or more will give you a request where I will do a video on whatever subject you want me to. And I'm going to start doing those and cashing those in at the end of the volume. And also, I'm going to start having some Patreon-only rewards on my on there. Namely, for the really heavy scripted videos, I will have the audio up on Patreon before I start doing the actual video edits. And the first one I'm going to be doing that with is with my very big quintessential quintuplet breakdown series, which I just finished scripting the first 4 parts of earlier today. And I'm really looking forward to doing that. I'm really looking forward to season 2. And so $1 or more, and you'll be able to hear all my thoughts on that and all my analysis on that before long before the videos come out on YouTube. And you'll still continue to do that for the Valentine's Day special, probably, and for all the honest looks coming out in the next year. So do that. By the time you guys are watching this, I think I would have already done my Decade in Review stream. So if you haven't checked that out yet, check it out. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing that Friday, and this is going up on Saturday. So that's in the past. I'm going to be doing a year in review stream closer to New Year's, and that's really all I have going on right now. Just a very, very busy time with my YouTube channel and trying to make my Patreon a little more enticing for everyone here.
And then we will be doing something next week on Wednesday.
Yes.
So be it like a stream or another podcast, they'll be posted at a later date.
Yeah.
We'll do something. So if we stream,
yeah, and if not Wednesday, because Wednesday is Christmas, it'll be sometime in between Wednesday and Saturday. Yeah, it'll be sometime between there.
Yeah, because we are getting an episode this week, right? So
yeah, we are not getting an episode next week.
Okay,
yeah,
we're getting an episode this
time.
week. So yeah, we gotta do something. We'll record the podcast before Saturday, basically.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that, like, because this weekend is the 21st, we're gonna have an episode. So long as we have the podcast recorded and edited and uploaded and stuff by the 4th, we're
that's
good.
true. Yeah, you're right. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
because
true.
Because we're gonna have that week off.
Okay.
But we'll try to do something for that off week, is what we're.
Okay.
So until next time, thank you all for watching.
Y'all have a good night. Join the Discord. It's somewhere
Bye.
in the description. Bye.